I'm going to call this meeting to order. Before I go to item 1, I'm going to ask everybody to keep in your prayers the families from all the 9/11 victims that was just, I guess, looked at for the 20-year from it happening. Keep them in your prayers. Keep our police, fire, and rescue in your prayers. They're the ones rushing in when we're rushing out when there's an emergency. Also, keep in mind and pray, say a prayer for our military that are out there protecting us, especially the 13 victims that were killed in Afghanistan, and the people that are still stuck there, and they're trying to get them out now. If you could keep them all in your prayers, it would be greatly appreciated. We're going to open the meeting with a moment of silent meditation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Pizzo, do we have any changes for this evening's agenda?
A few, Mr. Polari. Item 13 on this evening's agenda, which is Anthony Odessa, All-American Fireworks. We received from the engineer representing the applicant earlier today a request that this evening's application be tabled to council's next meeting, which would be your meeting of October 4, 2021. We have received an extension of time. I believe that's correct, Ms. McBreen. So if council is of a mind, a motion to table item 13 to October 4th would be in order.
I'll make a motion that we table item 13 to a date certain of October 4th.
I'll second.
Mr. Dogmazian, got the second?
Toss a coin.
Well, I gave you that one. The next one's going to Knowles.
Got it.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, 5-0. Mr. Pizzo?
Thank you. As to items 18, 19, and 20, all three are related to the application involving 2201 Street Road LLC, and that is the hub at Bensalem, the proposed mixed-use development for the Armstrong site. On September 9, I received communication from the attorney representing the applicant, advising that based on comments and feedback that they received during and subsequent to the council meeting of August 23rd, they are making some revisions to the plan and have asked that this evening's hearings on items on the land development be tabled to a future date. In subsequent conversations with their attorney, it sounds as if the engineering on the land development is such that we'd be looking at the first council meeting in November for them to make the revisions, submit them to the township, have them reviewed by all of the necessary review agencies, and have the comments in place for all of you to consider. So the applicant has given us an extension of time through November 30th. So that item, which is item 20, could be tabled to a date certain of the council's first meeting in November, and I apologize, I don't know what that,
8th.
November 8th. Related to that, obviously, are items 18 and 19, which are the text amendment and the rezoning of the property to the proposed SRM district. The applicant has made changes to the proposed text amendment as well. Those have been submitted to the County Planning Commission and to the township and are under review by the township at this time. Those, depending on council's preference, can be tabled either to your meeting of October 4 or to the November 8 meeting when you're going to consider the land development. It's been your normal practice to consider rezonings of land at the same time that you consider the land development. That's the way this application came in front of you on August 23rd, but it's up to all of you as to when those items would be tabled.
I believe we should do it all in one and not subject the people from Ansel Drive to come out to all different meetings and do this. I think we should set this all for one meeting as we've been doing all along so that, you know, the people on Ansel Drive and other residents in the area can be heard.
And Mr. President, if you're inclined to accept my motion to move number 18, 19, and 20 to a date certain of November 8th, I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it 5-0. It's moved to November.
Okay, and as was represented to the members of the community who were present at the August 23rd meeting, having received that request that everything be tabled to a future meeting, that was placed on the township website and was posted outside the building, that those items would be tabled from tonight's agenda, as was promised on August 23rd.
So will there not have to be another notice in the paper regarding that? Is that correct?
No, there will not. You've now tabled the item. It originally started on August 23rd. You tabled it to this evening. This evening, you are tabling it to a date certain of November 8th. So the applicant won't be required to send out new notices.
Okay, so be aware of that, ladies and gentlemen. Pass the word to your friends and neighbors if they want to be here.
Okay, we're going to flip items 11 and 12. We should probably put a motion on the floor for that, Joe, just to be...
Yes, the council for both the applicants on item 11 and item 12 are aware that Mr. Murphy, who's representing the applicant on item 12, has requested if he could be moved ahead of item 11. He's got some personal matters that he needs to attend to, and the earlier we can send him on his way, the better. Mr. Toadvine, representing the applicant on number 11, has no objection, as we would expect not. So, but yes, it does require you to formally amend the agenda to make that change.
Okay, can we get a motion on that, please?
Make a motion that we reorder the agenda to flip items 11 and 12.
I'll second it.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it 5-0.
That's all I have, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 2 on the agenda is public comment on any agenda items. You can come up now, or you'll be heard when the hearing is in the process. Seeing no one come forward. Number 3 on the agenda, approval of council minutes for meeting date August 23rd, 2021. Members, any additions or corrections?
I have a correction on the, and I forget, sorry, which items it was. It was all of the items dealing with the Armstrong hearing. The engineer's name is misspelled. His name is John Koutsouros, spelled Koutsouros, and that just had to be corrected throughout. That was it.
Okay, do we have any other additions or corrections? If not, a motion would be in order.
I'll make the motion, Mr. President, that we approve the minutes from the council meeting August 23rd, 2021. With the changes, as Mr. Sloan had stated.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I'll second the motion.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Vote aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 5-0. Mr. Chakowski, you're going to be handling 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's all yours.
All right, thank you, Council President. Members of council, there are two pension items that I need to present to council tonight, as I do every year. The first, I have to read into the township record the township's requirement for the minimum municipal obligation for our pensions for the year 2022. This is in compliance with Pennsylvania Act 205. Again, there's no action required. It just has to be read into the minutes for this purpose. The police pension, defined benefit pension, the requirement for the township in 2022 will be $4,439,477. The non-uniform defined benefit pension will be $329,101. And the non-uniform defined contribution pension plan is an even $200,000 for 2022. Again, no action required for you for that. Second item in front of you is a resolution, as we do every year. As we've discussed before, as it was negotiated in the police contract, they contribute 3.5% to the pension plan. As such, because it's below the 5%, Act 600 requires township to adopt a resolution allowing the reduction. So I ask for your consideration on approving this resolution. And if you have any questions on this item, I'll be glad to take it.
This happened this year also, correct?
Yep, yes, sir.
Any other questions?
So financially, we're in good shape when it comes to the,
Yes, the markets have been very generous to the pension plans right now, so we're seeing very good returns.
Okay, if there's no other questions, a motion would be in order.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept the resolution in reference to the Bensalem Police Pension Plan as presented.
I'll
second.
You had it.
Give that one to Mr. Kissel back, Mr. Sloan will get the next one. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, 5-0. John?
Yeah, the next 6 items, as we do every year, the Redevelopment Authority has opened up their grant funding for the 2021 year, which would be received in the 2022 year. There are 6 resolutions, the first being, as we've done in the past, for the 6 volunteer fire companies and the EMS, a grant for each of them for capital projects or upgrades to their facilities. Again, these are all need council's permission for us to submit on behalf of the township, and then it's up to the RDA as to whether we actually get approved for them or not. So first resolution is $350,000 for the 6 volunteer fire companies and the EMS. Any questions on this?
Do we have any questions on that
Yeah,
resolution?
Mr. Chakowski, do we have any idea what we're looking to put towards with that grant?
So in the past, we've allowed them to submit for radios. In the past, we've allowed them to submit for upgrades to the actual facilities themselves, equipment itself. It's a very broad but narrow as far as it has to be related to the fire service or the rescue squad itself. Most of them use it for either truck payments or equipment payments, or they'll buy additional equipment for the volunteers themselves.
Some type of capital expense, basically.
Yep, exactly.
So they
And they
can't
all,
use it
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, it's fine.
They all have to pay for it first and then submit for reimbursement, and then at that point, the RDA will reimburse them.
So they can use it for debt service then, for the
Yes,
trucks?
yes.
And is that equally distributed throughout the township?
Yes, it would be
58,000 or whatever?
equally distributed, 50,000 to each of them.
Any other questions? If not, a motion would be in order.
I'll make
Put
a,
it- Go ahead, Jess.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, 5-0.
The next resolution is a records management system. We've done this one in the past as well. This one is a multi-police department. There's 39 police departments in Bucks County that allows all the police departments, along with the township, to communicate with each other via Cody, which is the police software that's out there. This service pays for the annual maintenance agreement for the 39 departments, as well as any cloud space or any type of those charges that would be required. The grant request for this would be $115,600 being submitted to the RDA.
Do you have
John,
any questions?
yeah, are we the lead agency for this?
We are the lead agency just because we started the program.
Okay, now is this a similar thing where we would have to pay the money in front? I would assume we have to make this investment no matter what. We're just looking to recoup the cost from the RDA, correct?
There's an upgraded software for Cody for all the police departments to work together. So it isn't a separate agreement, but what we wind up doing is we get the invoice from Cody, submit it to the RDA, they pay, and then we just pay Cody directly.
So we don't put money out first?
There's no money directly out. Yeah, if this grant gets approved in full, it pays the full annual maintenance for it.
Okay, and that's the cost for all 39?
All 39 municipalities, yes.
Any other questions? If not, a motion would be in order.
Mr. Blair, I'll make the motion that we approve the resolution for the municipal grant program for funding of the integration of the police record management system through Bucks County.
I'll second.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, 5-0. John?
The next resolution in front of you is the intergovernmental agreement to participate in for TAG, Towns Against Graffiti. As you can see, not only would your signature and approval be required for this, as you can see there's multiple other municipalities that are members of TAG itself. All these municipalities pay an annual membership fee. As the hosting agency of TAG, we apply for the grant on behalf of everyone. And as we do every year, we're applying for $165,000, and that is enough to carry the program for the year as well as provide any fund balance for future years.
I'll put that in form of motion that we accept as presented.
Do we have any questions first? Any questions?
Well, I'll make a second to the motion, but I do have a question. Why for this resolution, do all the municipalities have to also vote on it, but the last one they did not?
The county one, it was started by us, so therefore we submit it that way.
Great. Thanks, John.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, 5-0. John?
The next resolution in front of you is a grant funding request for the EMS's mobile stroke unit. As you all know, the rescue squad joined with Jefferson Health to put out a stroke unit out on the street. There is a request to put in a funding for $150,000 towards the stroke unit next year, just towards the normal wear and tear as well as the normal usage of the stroke unit. So it would be in conjunction with the money that Jefferson provides as well.
Is Jefferson going to continue funding that, aside from this maintenance?
Yeah, so we believe they are,
Yeah.
but obviously we want to make sure this unit continues to run, so.
Right,
that's
I
why-
mean, it's a boon for the township, absolutely, and it's, we've all heard stories that it's already saved lives. And so
Absolutely.
I have no doubt about that. I'm just curious, it was a 2-year program initially, correct?
Yes, correct.
And has that expired? Or are we at the end
We're
of it?
at the end of it, so we haven't gotten the
Okay.
firm commitment of how much or if they're doing full.
Okay.
Now, did we get this amount last year for this
This is the
program?
first time we're submitting
First
for
time,
this.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had the commitment for Jeff for the 2 years.
For the 2 years, right.
And this is something,
150,000, I'm sorry, is that what you said? 150,000?
150,000, yes.
this is something that's needed throughout the
Absolutely.
county. I mean, it does a great job. I've had a lot of people give positive feedback that if
Yeah.
it wasn't for that unit, they may not be alive today. So this is something that we have and should keep going, even if Jefferson backs out. It's something we should make sure that we have for the people who live in our town.
You
And
know,
again, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
But again, we're, in no way are we saying that Jefferson is going to back out. It's just a placeholder just in case so that we can make sure that the unit can run next year.
Okay.
If something-
Understood. I was just
do
making my
we know,
comment that it should.
yeah, and actually to that point, and yours as well, do we know what the estimated annual cost of that unit is?
I do not.
No.
I can get it for you. I can ask Fred Herron to get it for you. or
Yeah, I'm
Tom.
curious, you know, just in planning for the future, we
Sure.
want to make sure that we have that on the road.
Yep.
Do we have any other questions for John on this one? If not, a motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution as presented.
I'll second it.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, 5-0. John?
The next one is a grant request that we're going to put in. We received communications from some, as we do every year, all years, we get resident as well as organizations within the Kiwanis, the Lions, all putting in ideas of what we could do for the municipality to help the community. An idea that's always been kicked around for the township, but in looking at it in previous years, it was never really something that we had the space, nor did we have the equipment was relatively expensive, was a zero depth pool. Obviously there are all those fountain pools, no actual water lays there, it's just for kids to run around in and get wet and have a great time. So the thought is we would like to apply for a municipal grant for $200,000 towards the cost of a zero depth pool. I will say it's in its infancy, so we don't know whether 200 will cover some, all, or a little bit of it. We are still doing our own research as well, but because there's different types of recirculating water and.
Are you
just
talking
straight
about like
water.
a splash pad type thing?
Splash pad type
Okay.
thing, yep.
Because I thought a zero depth pool is a pool where basically it comes all the way up. There's no wall on the one side and it comes all the way up, almost like it's coming out of the ocean.
My understanding is.
That's what a zero depth pool is.
Based on a
Then
Google
the
search.
wording is incorrect.
So this is more of like a
The
community splash pad.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly, yes. It was presented to us as a zero depth.
That's
so
okay.
That's why we were going.
We have to have some idea what park we're.
Yeah,
looking
so we were looking at two parks, one being actually right next to Imagination Land where the unused basketball courts are. That there was an idea there, or up at Community Park, or Firefighters Field. We had the space up there for those two areas as well. So it all comes down to which area fits best for the size and everything that we would need up there.
Once we get some scoping, engineering, and figuring
Exactly, yeah.
So we're
We first wanna
considering
see-
2 locations or 3 locations, but one,
And one will be placed at one of the 3 locations, yes.
they're pretty popular.
Yes.
Yeah, they're all good choices. Do we know a timeline roughly?
ti-
Even a goal?
So it would come down to, as I said, we're still investigating cost, trying to get estimates on, what the engineering would be and everything like that for next year's budget, but it would also come down to funding from the grant. So the two will go hand in hand. We won't get notice of our grant acceptance, I think, till November timeframe of this year. So around budget times, we should have an idea as to, one, whether we got accepted or not, and two, what our actual firm costs will be.
Okay, and that'll give us some idea of timeline at that
Exactly,
point?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, if there's
Thanks,
no
John.
other.
Sure.
You have another question, Judge?
No, I just
If
said
there's no
thank
other
you.
question, a motion would be in order.
I'll put that in form of motion, we accept the proposal for the resolution number 9, agenda item,
And I'll
as
sec-
presented.
I'll second it.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, 5-0. John?
Last one that we're submitting for is a sub-recipient grant for Living-Grin. Living-Grin is requesting $250,000 for the township to apply on their behalf. They would like to use it for a transitional housing facility that they are looking to build on the facility. It's a 24-bed transitional housing unit that will be housed on the campus of Living-Grin itself. They would be renovating an existing building to make this facility. It sounds like they are going to do it no matter what, but obviously they'd like a grant funding to help the cause. So
And we've applied for grant funding on their behalf in the past.
we
right?
have, yes, for Living-Grin and the YWCA we've done in the past. Yeah,
Okay.
But this would be something on their property, part of their whole program.
yeah, it's completely managed by them. The only thing the township's doing is applying for a grant on their behalf.
In the way that things are going in this area, in this country, that's something that's needed to help people to get through their troubled times.
Yep.
Any other questions on the motion? If not, a motion would be in order.
Mr. Blair, I'll make the motion that we approve the resolution for the municipal grant program for funding of the Living-Grin Transitional Housing
I'll
Grant.
second.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Vote aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank
Have
you,
a
John.
great night.
I want to see that video again.
Each one.
And the next time, tell me one on the right side.
Heads, when you sign this, that is, yep. Okay, we're going to go to
You have the video, the phone.
number 12. We're going to move that above 11. Consideration of a preliminary and final land development for Deepak Patel, 4700 Street Road, the proposed use hotel, zoning classification GC, general commercial, tax parcel 2-3-7-4.
Good evening, thank you. I'm Ed Murphy, I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, and the property, as I think everybody well knows, is the site of the former Wyndham Hotel on Street Road. At the time that the Wyndham closed in the winter of 2020, it operated 214 hotel rooms from that location. Mr. Patel acquired the property after it had been closed in bankruptcy in July of 2020. And what he is proposing tonight, pursuant to his plans that are in front of you, is to redevelop and repurpose the facility with 2 new Marriott facilities on the same property. The Marriott extended stay facility would have 107 units, and the Marriott Spring Hill Suites would have 101 units. So the total of the 2 new freestanding Marriott flags would be 208 rooms, which is 6 rooms less than the total that existed at the time that Wyndham closed. As part of that plan, we've received the various review letters from the township consultants, including Russ's office, Fire Marshal, Bucks County Planning Commission, and Mr. Worster's office. As Russ knows, we have no issues with any of the review letters. All of them will comply. There's no particular planning issues that we have that we feel the need to discuss, and I think the staff feels the same way. So we're hopeful that you would consider the grant of this approval so Mr. Patel can move forward. Between the cost of acquisition and the cost of redevelopment, this is representing somewhere approaching a $25 million reinvestment in Bensalem. So I think it's a win-win for everybody, and that's why we're here. So that's
Are
it.
these both going to be held by the same owner, or are
They
they
are.
going to be 2 separate owners?
Nope, same owner.
Same owner?
Yep.
Okay, so Mr. Pizzo, because there's 2 different properties, in case one gets sold later, there be an agreement as to share parking between the 2? Is that something that should be done for this plan?
Well, I believe it's an excellent question, Mr. Polari. The plan, at least at the moment, is a single parcel.
That's correct.
So,
One parcel, one land development. Right.
so even if the buildings were to be under some ownership arrangement, where a shared parking would kick in would be is if
Somehow they were condominiumized or
somehow
something.
they were condoed or the like. So I guess it can't hurt
Yeah, I have no objection if you
to
want to
have a
put.
note placed on the plan that says that all of the parking will be, if at any point in time the buildings are not in common ownership, that all of the parking, access, egress to the site is all shared.
This
No
way we get
objection.
it done up front. We don't have to worry about it later down the road and have a war going on.
No objection.
Okay.
Yep.
It's happened before.
Yes, it's happened before and it'll happen again, I'm sure. Do we have any questions from anybody of the board for Mr. Murphy?
Thank you. There were a couple waiver requests in the T&M letter that it noted. Can we go through those?
Yes.
Go ahead, Russ.
So I'm looking at,
Do you want me to have Mr. Murphy go through each one?
you know what, that's probably a little bit easier.
Why
That's
don't
okay.
why don't you go through section D first and, let it go through everything and then we can go back with questions from
Okay.
there.
Thank you, Mr. Board.
The first item of waiver is section 196-61B1. This involves the design and size of the stormwater pipes on the project, and I don't think, if I can speak to Russ, I don't think that his office has any objection to the revised sizing of the size of the stormwater pipes.
No issue on that. It's private, it's part of their ownership responsibilities, and B, the pipe itself actually has capacity for a 100-year storm, so we're fine.
Second item of waiver is from Section 20141D10, which again is more of a technical engineering issue that talks about contour lines at vertical intervals, whatever the hell that means. But I can't imagine, again, I think from looking at the correspondence that Russ's office had no objection to that one.
Russ?
That's correct, no objection.
Is
And
there
don't tell us what it
Is
means.
the second
It's a-
waiver from stormwater also?
It would be paragraph D3, Mr. Kisselberg.
Thanks.
Mr. Blair, can we, just want to go back, excuse me for 1 minute. Russ, can we go back to the pipe issue real quick?
Yes.
I know we've done this before, but I want to ask the question, and you need to convince me as to the 100-year storm. What, you got to convince me that reducing the size of the pipe is going to be able to handle the capacity versus leaving a larger diameter pipe in there.
Yeah,
And then the reason why I'm asking also, sorry, excuse me, I know Bucks County Planning Commission,
commented on that.
yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What we actually do is the applicant's engineer does a calculation that shows the drainage area to that pipe, the amount of rainfall that occurs in a 100-year storm, and then does an analysis of that pipe. And what he proves, or they prove, is that the pipe is adequate. We review that to make sure that we're in agreement with the drainage area and all of his calculations to make sure that it can handle the 100-year capacity. So instead of saying, listen, just put an 18-inch pipe in, don't worry about it, he puts, the proposal is put a 12-inch, provide the calculations, and show us that it works. And then we take into context that this is a private development, it's a small drainage area to this particular pipe. We have no issues with it as far as creating any type of flooding issues at all. And then based upon that, we kind of opine on our, not objecting to the waiver. Now, obviously, when we look at all that situation, no matter if it's private, public, we look at all those things. And quite frankly, sometimes when it's public and it can affect people in different ways, we look at it differently.
Is there any negative impact in leaving it 18?
There's no negative impact. Now, the only thing I'd ask, and I'm not positive of, a lot of times when those waivers are requested, there's a cover issue on top of the pipe. Pipes have to have so much cover on top of them so they're not crushed. And there's existing conditions. We're dealing here with an existing development. There's no regrading of the parking lots, anything of that nature. So we're dealing with existing grades. I'd ask the applicant's engineer, and I can't recall, was that the specific issue that was driving that request?
There are two issues. The one is this piece of pipe is going,
Can you speak into the microphone?
no
please?
problem. This section of pipe is going between two existing sections of pipe. So you'd have, a smaller pipe that's 15 inches on site already, then going to an 18, then coming back down to a 15, which is irregular and not recommended. And then the other section that it came into play was the discharge pipe out of the basin. There's a small bioretention basin that's going on site. So it's going to drain down into a 4-inch under drain and then into the outlet structure. And that's where the cover came into play. To put in an 18-inch pipe is overkill for coming out of the outlet structure. So we reduced it, and then it helps keep the appropriate cover over the pipe.
And it's not part of the storm source system, it's more part of the rain garden and the best management practice, is that correct?
It is part of the storm sewer system. The one section is where we talked about the two different pipe sizes, but it is upstream in the site. It's at the top of the watershed of the site. And then there's no known flooding issues on site today, and we're reducing the impervious cover on the site. So we're comfortable going to the 15-inch. And as Mr. Benner explained, we have to perform the calculations and submitted them showing the 100-year sizing as appropriate.
And what's your objection to the 18-inch?
The one is coming out of the bioretention basin. It's a shallow basin to begin with, so to put an 18-inch pipe out of it, it's just overkill for coming out of that basin. It doesn't have that much stormwater coming out of it, and also we run into the cover issues. And then the second piece is we're maintaining some of the existing sewer on site, and we're replacing some of it for the new configuration. So we'd be coming through from 12 and 15-inch existing pipes upstream to an 18, but then downstream of that section that we're replacing, it would be going into a 15-inch.
So you're saying there would only be,
Section.
Go ahead.
So you're saying there would only be one small section that would have the increased diameter pipe,
Correct.
which doesn't make sense if the rest of the pipe's not being also
Right.
replaced to be 18 inches.
So just for your reference, this is the high point of the site. Sorry, I'm trying here. This is the high point of the site. Everything's coming down and towards this corner, it's going to cross the site. This piece of pipe that we're talking about is in this segment here. And so we're connecting in the 15-inch pipe. We're starting out here with 12s and 15s. So we'd be coming through, going to a bigger pipe size and coming back down. Can you do it? Sure. It's atypical and irregular.
It doesn't do anything for the flow, though, if you're not expanding the diameter of the rest of the
Exactly.
pipe.
The pipe that discharges out of this site is being untouched.
Right.
So increasing this to an 18 is going to help. If there is an issue, you're going to find it when it leaves the site, and that's being untouched.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, unless they're replacing the whole line.
Yeah, that's
It-
fine.
it doesn't
It's just a sensitive topic right now, and we know
Yeah.
that the water runs down Street Road, so for future development, it's just something to consider, I think, more heavily.
Russ, you're okay with the calculations? They're staying the same or lesser?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Next one is Section 20141D15. We've asked for a waiver from having to provide a wetland certification since we're working in an already developed area for the last 30 years. We're not proposing to extend the limit of disturbance, so basically working in an area, building and parking lot, so there's no reason for it, so.
Russ, you're okay with that?
Yep.
And then I think the next to last one is one I'm sure you've seen before, and that is Section 20142A. We're asking for your consideration of a preliminary and final land development plan as opposed to just a preliminary plan. And then lastly, it's a Section 201-137 dealing with streetlights along Street Road. Now, maybe Jake, you want to talk briefly about that, just so we're clear. We're not looking to avoid obligation for lights, but that's more of a specific comment.
Sure, so this comment came in regard as adding streetlights along Street Road itself. There are some areas, in the area of the proposed development where there's no existing street lighting out there today. We're not proposing to do any major work along Street Road. We're in the process of wrapping up our HOP submission with PennDOT. We're doing some minor island reconfigurations for that pork chop that directs traffic and putting in some ADA ramps, but nothing further. And PennDOT has not asked us to provide any additional lighting along Street Road. However, we are fully lighting the parking lot in accordance with the ordinance.
If PennDOT does ask you to do it, you'll be in agreement and
That's
do the
correct.
streetlights that they ask for, correct?
Yep.
Russ, you're okay
Yep, that's
with
fine
this?
too.
Any- Okay, is that everything, Mr. Murphy?
Yes, that's all the waivers we've asked for.
Okay, Jess, do you still have questions?
The only question I had, comment C6, as it relates to something else that was included in our packet, a rejection letter by the fire marshal. It appears as if you've made the changes requested by the fire marshal in their March 16th letter.
We have.
And have you resubmitted that to the fire marshal?
I have, and actually the fire marshal and I talked on Friday and today, and he asked me to inform you all that we're on the same page and we've complied, and that his approval is forthcoming. So I let him know that he had a couple minor comments. I said they'll be picked up in our final submissions to township after tonight, and he said that's fine.
So that will be a will comply
It is.
with the
We'll
fire
comply,
marshal?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Pizzo, have you heard anything from the fire marshal on that? Okay.
A couple other things too. Chad, are you done?
Yep.
A couple items on the TPD letter. Are you in agreement with those as well?
Yes.
Okay. The third item noted trash truck access for a proposed dumpster area. Would you be against the idea of enclosing that area?
Yeah, if that's appropriate, enclose it, yeah.
It is proposed to be closed.
It is?
Marriott has specific standards for the dumpster, so it will be closed.
Thank you.
And I believe we do as a township.
You
too,
do as
right
well.
out there, so
So Marriott standards.
that you will agree to do that.
Correct.
Yeah, it is.
That's it.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, if you get a favorable, because the property now is vacant, right? Is it
It is.
still true? Okay. How long would it take you? I know it's $25 million, so I don't know if there's financing in place, but how long do you expect to be able to, proceed and get this
I
thing done?
think
Danny previously told me that he hopes to have these facilities open in 2023.
We are at least 3 to 4 months to at least do the architecture from now on. And the building permit members almost 18 months for construction. So
Okay, so it'll be an active site paying taxes in 2023?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I just don't want it vacant too long if it's possible.
No, and you already benefited from the transfer tax on the purchase in July, so that's
Yeah,
all good.
but it was at a reduced price though, hey, come on.
You'll be getting a fully taxable $20+ million.
Well, and plus I don't want it vacant, I just don't want it
Yep,
to a
I
point where
agree.
people are, we have vagrants or we have a big drug problem, everything, you know,
Yep.
just, we don't want it vacant too long.
It's a site that needs to be promptly redeveloped.
Do we have any other questions for the board at this moment? Mr. Pizzo, do you have anything? No? Go ahead.
I don't, other than, just for sake of clarity, particularly for the preparation of the approval letter, as to section C, items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all items are will comply items to the extent they haven't already been addressed. As to section D, items 1 is a will comply, 2 has been addressed, 3 is a waiver, 4 to 6, 4, 5, and 6 have been addressed, 7 is a waiver, 8 and 9 have been addressed, 10 is a will comply, and will comply with PennDOT requirements for the HOP. 11, 12, 13 have been addressed, 14 is a will comply. As to 14, are we expecting that all of the trees that are required will be provided, or are we looking at a fee in lieu of?
It was a typo on our, all, we'll meet the landscape requirements.
Okay, so that's a will comply. 15 has been addressed. 16 is standard, the Act 537, that's a will comply.
Right.
17 is a will comply. 18 is will comply, or as a waiver rather, but you will comply with the requirements of PennDOT.
Correct.
As to that particular item. E1 is a waiver. E2 and E3 are will complies. Under the general comment, comment 1 has been addressed. Comment 2 requires no action. Comment 3 has been addressed. Comment 4 is a will comply. Item 5 has been addressed. Item 6 is a will comply, and has been indicated on the record this evening that you will comply with the items in the TPD letter. 7 and 8 have been addressed. Is that all accurate, Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, and we accept those as conditions, correct.
And in addition, you'll obviously, along with compliance with the review letter from TPD and the items in the engineer's letter that we just went through, also comply with the conditions of the township fire rescue as they apply to the site as well.
And TPD, correct.
Yeah, very good.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against this project? If so, please come forward. Seeing no one come forward.
Mr. President, I'll put a form of a motion that we accept the preliminary and final land development of the 4700 Street Road at tax map parcel 02003-007-004, and not to be redundant with all, I'll just say with all the improvisers that our solicitor, Joseph Pizzo, just mentioned, the applicant will comply with those.
Correct.
Do we have a second on the motion?
I'll second it.
Any questions on the motion?
I believe we also have to add in the waiver, which wasn't in the T&M letter for both, to approve both preliminary and final land development.
Well, Mr. Kisselback
Motion
made
is
the
seconded.
motion
All
for
right.
preliminary and final.
Yeah, it was part of the initial thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
But
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it. 5-0. Good luck.
Thank you for your consideration today.
Yeah, welcome to Bensalem again.
Yeah, good luck.
Mr. Murphy, good luck with your endeavors.
Okay, we're going to go to now number 12, consideration of a final land development for Aztecia Incorporated, location Street Road and Castle Drive, proposed use retail, general commercial, tax parcel 2-37-39 and 2-37-40. Mr. Toadvine.
Yes, good evening, and here on behalf of the applicant La Azteca from Begley, Carlin, and Amandio, a housekeeping item, Mr. Pizzo, the certificate of notification provided was actually for the, I guess, August meeting.
So that the record is clear, if I might, Mr. Polari.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Toadvine has handed up the proof of mailing to the adjacent property owners for this application. That mailing was effectuated in July for the scheduled hearing of Monday, August 9. Since that date, at the request of the applicant, the matter has been tabled forward to, I think, possibly each council meeting since. There have been 2 council meetings, so, but it has been, each time that it's been on the council agenda, it has been tabled to a date certain. Again, at the request of the applicant, the proofs of mailing appear to be in order, so we can proceed with this evening's hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Toadvine, you want to go through the T&M
Yeah,
letter?
just a brief history. So this application previously came before council and was approved back in 2015. It received final plan approval in June of 2015. Nothing was done until after the 5-year period of time had expired. So we had to start from scratch, start from the beginning, and that's what brings us here tonight. It's the same exact plan, the same exact use that was proposed back in 2015. We're asking for final land development approval, and I will address the T&M, or I'm sorry, yes, the T&M review letter. First of all, one of the requirements is that the lots be consolidated, which we have agreed to. We are merely remodeling the existing structure, which is located on tax parcel ending 040. The rest of the area, also on tax parcel ending 039, is used for parking, proposing 13 parking spaces, 1 handicapped. The exact use of this that's proposed here is across the street, sort of catty corner. La Azteca has been in operation for over 20 years. They're merely looking to move their operation across the street and to rehab the existing structure so as to accommodate the bodega. As far as the T&M review letter of February 27, 2021, all the items will comply. We're asking for 5 waivers, the same waivers that were granted by council back in 2015. We're looking for a waiver from section 201-41D9, which requires existing features within 400 feet of the property boundaries to be provided on the plan. A waiver from section 201-108C4 to permit a 10-foot radius at one location rather than the required 20-foot radius. A waiver from section 201-108C6B1 to allow the proposed access drive to be located 115 feet from Castle Drive rather than the required 200 feet. A waiver from 201-111 to provide relief from providing the required sidewalks along Castle Drive. We agreed to pay a fee in lieu of, which was also provided for in the previous approval. And then finally, a waiver from section 201-112 in parentheses, small I, requiring curbing along the parking spaces. The T&M review letter also addresses under general comments and conditions of approval, the prior approval and T&M's comments on those. So we would agree, if the board was so inclined, to the same conditions of approval as contained in the letter of approval back in 2015, and they are recited in the T&M letter at subparagraph, I believe it's G.
Gonna go over.
That's correct.
So you're gonna go over chapter 201?
Yep.
You can go through 232 first, the zoning ordinance.
Okay, so as far as the zoning ordinance is concerned, Section 232, 386, fire lanes shall be provided and marked in accordance. We will comply. Apparently, there was further conversation with the fire marshal after this letter was issued, and I believe that our engineer has provided the fire marshal with the required information that he needed in order to be satisfied with the design layout. Chapter 201, Section 201-41D11A, we will comply. Number 2, Section 201-41D11G, again, we will comply. Section 201-41E3, we will clarify and comply with that requirement. Section 201-85A, we will submit to the Bucks County Planning Commission and will comply. Section 201-106C4, that is a will comply. Section 201-108C2, obviously we will comply and provide a copy of the PennDOT permit. Section 111B, I'm sorry, we are actually providing 5-foot wide sidewalks along Street Road. Section 201-112O, there's a conflict on the plan with the parking light. That will be corrected so that there's no conflict between the proposed lighting and the dry well. Number 10, Section 201.
Complying with that?
Yes, yes, we are. Section 201-115-1. What's that? Sewer planning, yeah, that's obviously will comply. Do you want me to go through the Chapter 162 items?
Stormwater, you can go over it, it shows it's the same
Right.
as it is today. So.
Pre and post will be the exact same as far as runoff is concerned.
Are you going to have an entrance and exit off of Street Road?
Well, this plan that you have in front of you proposes the access from Street Road.
Right.
At the last approval, there was apparently discussions with the neighbors who voiced concern over having access onto Castle Drive, so it was approved with an entrance and exit onto Street Road.
Right.
Now, I understand that the traffic engineer wants the access off of Castle. We will provide either Castle or Street Road. We prefer Street Road, but I don't know that the neighbors want the access off of Castle.
Well, I thought that we were doing this just on Street Road.
That's right.
Because we don't want to cut through from Castle Drive, and that would do that. But according to what you're talking about, there's an entrance and exit off of Castle.
I believe that's a fire entrance and exit. And I'll ask Mr. Dumack to clarify that.
I think that one.
Yeah, that works. That one works.
Okay. The proposed fire lane takes access off of Castle only. It is typically a one-way in, one-way out on Street Road with only the fire lane. And depending on what the fire marshal wants or requires, we can either put breakaway bollards, a gate, or a mountable curb, depending on what their requirements are.
So you would comply with whatever the fire marshal's office would want there. We don't want that open down the road so people can enter and exit and go through the neighborhood, which is something that should be avoided. So-
Absolutely.
So you will
Absolutely.
comply on that?
Yes.
So there- it would be clear there'd be an emergency entrance only, right?
Yes.
So you wouldn't be able to access it.
Yep, that is correct.
Okay.
Are you adding additional impervious surface to this project at all?
I'm sorry?
Are you adding blacktop, additional impervious?
There is additional impervious that's coming onto the site. However, based on our stormwater management, we are matching what the pre-development versus post-developed conditions are. So there is no additional downstream runoff. It's all being captured and infiltrated.
The reason I ask, I've been here for a few years, and I don't know that I've ever seen it identical to the pre-development flow and the post-development flow, or a rare occasion that happens when you make changes.
We do have a fairly substantial underground storm system. And do you want to see it?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I got it.
Russ, you've looked at this also, while they're getting the change?
Yeah, and the reason for that, them equaling, is this is total infiltration. This is not a typical basin that you have an outlet structure and you try to mimic the pre-development conditions. Everything goes into a dry well and then is infiltrated. And that's why both values are equal. Because there's nothing running off or running out of the basin. It's infiltrating into the ground.
If I
If
may.
that were the case, shouldn't that improve the water flow?
Oh, yes, most certainly, because even, the typical basin, you'll have water discharging through a pipe, just extends the volume of water out over a longer period of time. Here, everything's just going into the ground. I mean, you're not going to see it leave the site. It's going to be infiltrated, so that's a definite improvement.
But yet, the figure's telling me that they're exactly the same.
Well, yeah, that's correct. It's kind of a technicality. I mean, I guess if you could look at it and say, well, it's zero, you could say post-development's zero because it's all being infiltrated. Instead, we just look at it, it's just the same. It's just a technicality. Taking what you said into play, should it be zero because it's being infiltrated? Yes.
The infiltration bed is almost as big as the house.
Okay?
Well, I think, and I understand, right now, water's running off the site. Is that your point?
Yes?
And we're saying that post-development, no water will leave the site. So it shouldn't be theoretically the same
correct.
values.
Yeah.
It should be 100 before and 0 after, something along those lines. I guess that's an
And that's
engineer-
correct. Just to understand, Ed is absolutely correct in what he says. Because it's being infiltrated, it's zero, not necessarily the same. I agree with that.
How does the calculation show the same value for pre and post development then?
It's not correct on what we're saying. That's
Oh,
what I'm
okay.
saying.
All right.
I'll say that. I'll say Ed's correct. We should have showed it as zero because it's infiltrating.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Ed, do you have anything else?
No, he's answered the question. Russ has.
Do we have any
Thank you.
other questions from the board?
I have a question on the parking.
Yes, sir?
Why is the angled parking in that direction? Because if you are on the southbound side, if you're on the south side of Street Road, wouldn't traffic be, you could be creating the endless loop of traffic congestion by doing the parking that way.
Now this is actually the exit. It is a one-way traffic flow.
Right.
I hear what you're saying. This is what PennDOT wanted. And quite honestly, I'm not going to argue with PennDOT.
So they wanted the
PennDOT?
entrance on the south side of the property, or I'm sorry, I should say the east side of the property?
Correct.
That's
Part of
our
it
state.
has to do with the next-door neighbor here on street, with the required turning radii. You
Okay.
can't go past the property line on the right-of-way. There were a number of
That's
other
fine.
factors involved as well,
Okay. Thank you.
certainly.
Can you make a left out of there?
At this point, it is it allows both north and south egress onto Street Road. There is if I remember correctly, there is not a turning lane, but a alternate turning lane between the north and southbound sides, which does allow for you to accelerate if you're going north onto Street Road.
That's the center lane, it's up and down Street Road. If you're
I
making
know,
a turn.
yeah, I mean, I don't think we're expecting a ton of traffic to
Yeah,
really be
because
concerned about
they've been
it.
in
No.
business across the street
Yeah.
for 20 years. They
People
kind of
exit
know the
the
line.
And I think they have 4 parking spaces across the street.
Yeah.
No parking.
There's no
I get it.
parking there. It's
one-
foot traffic mostly.
Don't, for most of the businesses that are not at a traffic light along Street Road, don't we require them to have a right out only? The majority, I'm not saying everyone, but I'm trying to rack my brain right now.
PennDOT controls it, but
But we could
nobody
restrict-
follows it anyway. They make less out of a right turn only. I mean, every one of the centers on Street Road, you see them coming out of
We do, but if we
Kohl's and-
restrict it to right only and they make a left and they cause an accident, then the driver's at fault and the township is not.
Well, a township wouldn't be at fault on any of it. It would
Well,
be, you know,
does that do anything,
Then-
Mr.
yeah, but then you're
Pizzo,
gonna
in
have-
terms of
then you're gonna have-
improving
yeah,
and
you're gonna
potential
have-
liability?
You're gonna create a situation where everybody going right on Street Road, who has to go back to the turnpike, say, is gonna turn around somewhere.
And that's why I'm asking the
You know what I mean?
question.
'Cause they-
Mr. Pizzo, can you answer?
Up and down
Mr.
Street Road, I'm not
Slauson?
saying that this is not uncommon.
There's a center lane and PennDOT makes that decision that they feel that it can be done.
Mr. Pizzo, can you answer Mr. Sloan's question on the legality?
As is often my preference when giving any of you or all of you counsel on what somebody might or might not sue us for, I generally don't advertise it to the public what their causes of action against us might be. So if perhaps you'd like to adjourn for an executive session to discuss it, I'd be happy to. That being said, to the extent that the applicant has submitted a plan to the township, it's undergone reviews by the various review agencies, including PennDOT, and if at this point in time PennDOT has said, I don't know if they've said it as a condition of highway occupancy permit approval, but if PennDOT has weighed in and said, we think the parking should be oriented this way in light of your entrance and exit off of our state highway, and the township engineer either agrees or doesn't oppose it, the same being true for the township traffic engineer, I'd say all of you are in pretty good shape if you were to go ahead and approve the plan with all of those agencies and review entities having weighed in and saying it's the appropriate way to do it.
Are you opposed to making that a right only? Right turn only?
I would be okay with that condition pending PennDOT approval.
Of course. Russ?
Heath, have you had, I guess since the last planning commission meeting, which was several months ago, have you had any follow-up conversations with PennDOT on this?
We have. PennDOT was more concerned about ADA compliance at the intersection than anything else. They were focusing on the ramps, they were focusing on part of what we have to do is actually rebuild a section of Castle Drive based on the slopes and drainage. They really didn't.
There was no commentary on the driveways themselves?
Nope.
How many customers do they have either in a day or a week? Let's say on a day basis. How many customers do they have in and out of their place on a day?
If they were going to answer the question, they need to come up and answer it on the microphone.
Just trying to figure out who's best suited to answer that question.
Apologize. Just want to make sure that we're not adding any stress to traffic in terms of potential accidents.
Good evening.
Hello.
My name is Araceli Cruz, and I am the owner of La Azteca Inc. And you're asking how many clients do we have? Like, are you talking like
Yeah,
per day?
how many cars come in and out of your place in a day?
How many cars?
Yes.
9 to 5 or 9 to
God, probably 5. Yeah,
You said
probably
about 5, right?
Right.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
See, I would be opposed to letting people, if you only make people make a right and they want to go the other way, they're just not going to go the other way forever. They're going to turn around. They're going to turn around Street Road and Knights Road, which isn't great already, or they'll be cutting through the neighborhoods to get back the other way. So I'd rather just have them take their time. If they want to go left, get in the center lane, take their time, and go left, if that's what they want to do. And like Mr. Polari said, they're going to go left anyway. So I would rather just leave it the way PennDOT's the expert in this, so they say it's okay with me, but.
Yeah, Mr. Knowles, I think you need to put yourself in the position of driving down Street Road. And I don't mean to argue here, but now I'm thinking about it, I don't really think, irregardless of the number of cars that are exiting into that site, right? Because we have the bank that's down the street, and you could argue there's 20 cars, but we still have a right turn coming out of that bank that we approved at that corner. My argument here is just think about going down eastbound on Street Road and thinking about you getting into that turning lane in the middle lane, making a left into the Clubhouse Diner, and you got a car coming out of that site trying to come into that middle lane while there's a car then coming down there to try to make that left.
Well, where should they turn around if you make a right? Where should they turn around to get back on the turnpike?
Somewhere where it's safe.
Somewhere where it's safe. Where?
Make a right
Where is
on
it
Knights
safe?
Road. Make a right on Knights Road, and they can figure out how to turn around then, if that's the case, if they have to
I
go the
do
other
it
way.
every day on my street coming out of Eddington. I have to make a left-hand turn and get in the center turning lane to get into the right-hand lane. I mean, it's just the way Street Road is. If you start doing things to make people, like I was saying, Chick-fil-A, there's a left.
I'd like to do things to make people safer.
I understand.
I
You make
don't
the- well,
think, but PennDOT decides
can
that, not us.
Let me finish. We did it with Chick-fil-A to make a right turn out to make it safer. People make left turns out of the right turn lane only, and it causes accidents, and that's my fear here, where at least if, it would just, my opinion, mind you, it's just my opinion, to go out and make a left onto Street Road and be able to work your way over to the lane. That's the way most traffic works on Street Road. I mean, I've lived there for a long time and have to deal with it every day that I go out the Street Road.
Again, since the question was raised as to liability and the like, at least at this juncture, neither the design engineer, township engineer, nor the traffic engineer are recommending right turn only. PennDOT may or may not, but at least to give you all some frame of reference as you're debating, the I don't want to say experts, but the experts, I don't want to use air quotes when I say it, the experts who have all looked at it have looked at it and determined that it needn't be right turn only coming out of there. The current location on Street Road is not a restricted turn movement. The clubhouse is not a restricted turn movement. The Walgreens Bank is not a restricted turn movement. So the facilities in that stretch of Street Road, at least as to those handful of commercials, PennDOT has not made those restricted movements either. So
That's
again, trying to take into consideration what your obligations may or may not be, and as Mr. Polari or Knowles, one of them were saying, the right turn out may have the unintended consequence of directing traffic onto Castle and using the neighborhood as a way to get back out on the Street Road, which I don't think is anything anyone, neither the applicant nor any of you want as an unintended consequence.
When you come out of Bensalem Auto Body, you can go right or left, and it's, you have to go left, you gotta be careful.
And the reason we did Republic Bank was because it's right on the corner. If you tried to make a
couldn't
left
make a
turn out
left.
there, you couldn't make a left, it would be too dangerous, so.
Back up the traffic.
And I believe that was a PennDOT.
Yeah, PennDOT recommended that, right.
Yeah.
They made them put that thing in there.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the lively discussion.
And any other questions?
sorry, one other technical question. If we decide to motion for approval on this, could we consider and include the lot consolidation as part of that?
Yes.
Yes, we've
Yeah.
agreed to that, we will do that.
Mr. Pizzo?
Yes, and I believe at this point, as we get to that section of the letter, and as Mr. Toadvine has stated on the record, obviously, I appreciate that several of you may not have been on the council at the time of the October, or the 2015 approval, but the applicant has said that all of the conditions that the township imposed at that time, they are agreeable to having remain as conditions today. So
That's correct.
So everything that the township previously said 5 years ago regarding this plan, they're agreeable to working under all of those conditions.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Pizzo, before I go to the audience, do you have anything?
No, that would be all, Mr. Polari, from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against this application? Can you have your name and address for the
Yeah,
record?
Bernadette Stalnecker, 2558 Castle Drive. Good evening, council. I have lived on Castle Drive for 42 years. We bought here because it was a nice, quiet residential area. Not so anymore. Most of the homes along Street Road, which are part of Stanwood, are now professional businesses. I look out my window now and I have a dentist's office across the street, which is actually on Castle Drive. Why they changed the zoning to commercial in the residential area, I don't understand. Now they want to put a food retail right across the street from the dentist in my house. I will now look out my front window and see a store. My house will be surrounded by businesses. Privacy will be lost, and the residential area will be no more. I will be living in the business district. Traffic is horrible on Street Road. At times, it is so hard to pull out of Castle Drive onto Street Road. Exiting from this site onto Street Road is too close to Castle Drive, and also we do not need traffic exiting on Castle Drive. We are a cut-through for traffic now, and this will only add to more traffic in the neighborhood. The end of Castle Drive and Street Road does not drain properly now. If they put more blacktop for parking lot, etc., this will cause more water to run into the street. In the wintertime, it's a sheet of ice and it's dangerous. You come down the hill, you got to really go slow all the way back, or you'll slide right down on the street road. I am concerned about noise, especially during nice weather when my windows are open and the business is open late and 7 days a week. Delivery trucks make noise. There are 3 properties that will have their privacy lost in their backyards. One of them will have a parking lot on the other side of their yard. Another will have a part of a parking lot and business in their backyard. And the other will have a business on the side of their house that is so close that they will be greatly affected by it and its operations. I am sure that noise will be a factor to them also. Would you like to sit in your yard and look at a parking lot or a business? We do not know what the finished building would look like. Will it fit in and still look similar to the other professional businesses? Trees were removed when they were building the dentist across the street. The sound barrier was removed and it's a lot noisier now. The same thing's going to happen when they remove all the trees, etc., that there is now. Replanting trees will not be a big help. It's years before they grow. We do not need a food retail store in our neighborhood. I feel that this store and how close it is to my property and several other properties will only decrease their value. We have enough quick food stores in the area. I am sure that if this was going to happen close to your homes, that you would not like it. I am sure all of you like the peace and quiet of your neighborhoods that you live in. It would be much appreciated if you would kindly think of all the residents in my neighborhood and ask yourselves, would I want a business next to me? Thank you for your time and consideration. And I do have some pictures on my phone to show you how close some of this stuff is in proximity if you need to see them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Heath, can you take down your board, please? Yes.
Hi, my name's Ellen Coley. I live at 2936 Castle Drive, property right behind the establishment. There's discrepancies in this application. Back in 2015, there was not an entrance or an exit onto Castle Drive. It was agreed with the neighbors. There wouldn't be any driveway on that side. What was agreed on and what is in front of us now are two different applications. Then they're saying they want to remodel the existing structure. It was communicated in the March 17th meeting that they want to take down the structure and rebuild. That was in the zoning meeting on March 17th, saying that there's infestation. It's still not clearly defined what this is going to be. It says retail on the agenda. It says on the application, retail food. And then, so we don't know exactly, it's not stipulated exactly what this is going to be. They have another property down the street that has 3 floors. They have residents up top, they have the food store in the middle, and below they have merchandise. It's never been established exactly what this is going to be. After the March 17th meeting, their daughter went on to put a Facebook post on Facebook, and I'll read it for you if you will allow me. Last night at the township meeting, my mother's business was presented. This property in which she owned for 10 years was denied. To be frank, I attended this meeting with the expectation she would be approved. You'd think after so many years of paying property tax that they put in engineering drawings, permits, fees, would have, with a store across the street to the new property. What stood out was the neighbor attending the meeting. She resides directly behind the property. First meeting 10 years ago, she arrived. I was not here 10 years ago. She arrived with 30 residents. Racial slurs were thrown around back and it was denied. What was being proposed was a retail grocery store. She brought up the fact that once they have a permit and approval, there's no knowing what them people will put in there. I never said that. I said the business. When they, because it's been proposed as a deli, it's been proposed as a restaurant. It's proposed, they wanted to put food and tables out back, right under my son's bedroom window. Every time we've come up, it's been a different proposal. And then she said, are they going to start cooking? That the daughter had to define what a retail grocery store meant, that it had to be explained it's not a deli, that the head councilman was rude and took her side. We walked out of planning commission with 1 yes and 4 nay. It was 4 nay and 1 abstention. So it says, I was not bothered until I heard and felt her racism. There's no racism at all. And she's going to put this on Facebook. And then her father is going to cheer her on. They tagged Telemundo, they tagged all the news outlets, Fox, ABC, to put this on Facebook and defame me. They have not had one conversation. He said we had conversations with the neighbors. Not one conversation has been had, except for the homeless people that were there. When I told them, be careful, you don't know what's in there, that's when I found out he was the owner. And he told me, call him, not the cops. At the March 17th meeting, it was proposed that he put lighting up to deter the homeless and deter people from in the backyard. He hasn't put any lights up yet. He has not done anything that has been asked of him. And then we asked about the dumpsters and the trash. We've not gotten a clear answer on any of this. And this is a different drawing than what was proposed in 2015. And you can shake your head, but in 2015 there was no entrance or exit on Castle Drive. And I was not here 10 years ago, so what was proposed 10 years ago, I don't know. And then on this...
No.
Don't
No.
And this is, and then they're talking about they couldn't sell or do anything with their property. I have people knocking on my door. The dentists have people coming all the time wanting to buy the property. So they're saying they couldn't sell it. And then also, when the bank came around, they brought the title, the land search. And in there, For a professional, it's page 398, it's a covenant number 1, that in Stanwood, there would only be professional offices. And it's from Knights Road to Mechanics, the south side of Street Road to Dunks Ferry. And it's for professional offices, doctors, dentists, attorneys.
What's the
We
year
don't-
of that? What was the year of that? I'm sorry.
This was the title search that TD Bank gave to all the neighbors. It was the declaration of the land search from 1954 when the community was created. And it's on, you can have this copy if you like, but TD Bank gave it to all the neighbors when they were building. And I had said in one of the other meetings about the covenant, and I was told they don't know, their representatives, they don't know anything about the covenant, it has nothing to do with them.
There was some time ago, there was a change in the zoning that was approved by council, and there was hearings on that. So
Right.
Street Road is highway commercial.
Right.
It's not professional.
Okay.
So, I mean, it had been changed, and we went through the process. I'm just bringing you up to date on that, okay? And as far as I know, I thought they said there was not going to be any entrance or exits on Castle
It was communicated in the
Drive.
March 17th meeting that they want their delivery trucks to pull in there.
No, it's only there for police and
Well,
fire.
it was communicated that they want to take down the property, the existing structure, and they want to rebuild. This was just March 17th. And in the plans, and what this gentleman just said, was they want to remodel. And in the March 17th meeting, it was communicated that they wanted their trucks to load and unload. We don't have the hours of operations. We don't even know what this property is going to be. Is it food? Is it retail? This gentleman just said a bodega when he was standing up here.
We'll get to the answers to those questions.
So, I mean, until we get clarity, how can we approve this? And then to call me a racist on Facebook and to have them, her father, tell her that she's right? That's the main thing, to go on Facebook, social media, to defame me. That just took it too far. So I ask that this not be approved until we get clarity of all these issues. Because it's not right. You know, I had work tonight, I took off work to be here because I have to stand up for myself, to have all these people on, and they have one side of it. You know, let them put on Facebook, you know, I'm not a racist. And that's what has me most upset. I have family members of all ethnic persuasion. I have friends from all walks of life. And my kids have them from all walks of life. And that's how they were raised. Everybody's equal. So to put that on Facebook and then to have them agree with her. And that night I went home and I defended her. I defended her at home saying, if it was our daughter, she would fight for us too. Only to wake up and have my phone blown up, what she posted. I understood where she came from. She was standing up for her parents and she wanted this through. But then the next day to be hit with what she posted and to try to make it racial, we have enough garbage going on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come forward?
Yes, good evening. My name is Michael Foley. I reside at 2936 Castle Drive, next door to the property in question. And I purchased the property back in '09. And at that time, the zoning wasn't changed. So the zoning was changed after the fact, which I wasn't aware of. And I paid approximately $250,000 for this property. And for like the last 10 years, I had to live under siege with the threat of having a food store or a restaurant put right next to my house, my retirement home. All right? He's proposing to put a food store 20 feet next to my house. Now, could you imagine that if it was your home? How that would make you feel? Because I'm losing sleep at night over this. And my house needs renovations, but I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. How can I invest in a property that the property is going to be devalued because a food store is going to be constructed next to it? I'm living in limbo. Like I said, I just, I'm beside myself. I've worked my whole life for this home. And I mean, who in their wildest dreams could have thought it would come to this? Now, I'm a reasonable man, okay? I understand nobody wants to reside on Street Road. I get that, okay? But why can't we have a professional business there? Okay, that's within reason, is it not? I mean, to put a food store there? I mean, come on. I mean, the traffic it is bad already. And the trash, I clean up trash off my property every day, as it is. So that's only going to compound it, you know, both situations. I mean, trash and traffic, TNT, it's dynamite. Okay, it's going to blow up right on my house. I prayed long and hard over this, gentlemen and ma'am. And I don't know what I ever did to deserve this, but it's a living nightmare. That's all I can tell you. I feel like I'm under siege. And what did I do to deserve this? I mean, it's a question of practicality. I mean, you're trying to jam a square peg into a round hole here. I mean, it's not the property for that type of business. I mean, he's blinded by his own ambition. I mean, with no regard for anybody else or anything else, obviously. Like, I don't even count. So what, you live there? So what? We're putting a food store 20 feet next to your house. What are you going to do about it? Well, I'm doing what I can. That's why I'm standing up here tonight, pleading with you to be, you know, put yourself in my shoes. Now, I survived colon rectal cancer, a 3rd-degree burn on my foot, and all throughout, you know, I've been having to have this dark cloud follow me around. Oh boy, that day, oh boy, got another certified letter in the mail, here we go again. I just want to live in peace. That's all I want to do. I want to enjoy my retirement. Who knows how much time I got left? And like I said, I got all this foreboding, you know, about this situation. And it's been one ploy after another. I mean, I know if the shoe was on the other foot, I wouldn't even consider it, just out of consideration for the other person. Like, you can't put a food store there. I mean, seriously. I mean, if you have any compassion or humility at all whatsoever, I mean, it's obvious that he wants to bring the business over across the street, you know, but but there's no residential homes across the street. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna put a food store there, you might as well put a shopping center there. It's the same difference. I mean, I just find that the whole situation is appalling. Like I said, it's like a nightmare. It's a living nightmare. And I can't believe it's been going on for 10 years, and I've had the property for 12. You know, I said, you talk about being under duress, and what did I do? You know, I had no idea. Like, when I bought this house, I mean, who could have that kind of hindsight? Oh, you better not buy that house because somebody's going to buy, you know, and put a food store next to it. What's the property going to be worth when a food store is next to it? That's my question. Property value, is it going to go up? I know I wouldn't want to buy a house next to a food store 20 feet right next door to my home. I can't think of anybody else that would, nobody in their right mind. So, I mean, there's no regard whatsoever for me, for my livelihood, you know, what I worked my whole life for, and where I live, and where I reside, you know, and I seek peace of mind. And I mean, I'm just going to leave it at that, you know. Like I said, I'm swinging after the bell now. It's like I got to go back to the corner and get ready for the next round, I suppose. But please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? Seeing no one, let's get some answers to some of these questions. Mr. Toadvine, what are the hours of operation for this business?
9 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
And Sundays 9 to 7.
Sundays, 9 to 7.
Is there going to be any restaurant type, food type?
There will be no restaurant located in the building.
So that if this were to be approved and this was a part of the motion that there could never be a restaurant or food serving, it would be acceptable?
It will be acceptable.
No restaurant would be a fine, acceptable condition.
Russ, as far as setbacks and buffers and things of that nature, where are we with that?
Yeah, I know we have some comments, but they're more comments, they just have to add some things. As far as meeting the overall requirements of the ordinance, they generally meet all of those requirements.
Is there, are you knocking down the building and putting a new building, or are you rehabbing the building?
No, we have always agreed that the building is not, we're going to use the same structure. It's going to come down, but not the whole structure. We're going to use the exact same structure.
So you are taking it
Right.
down and you're building a new building?
But not a new building, because we are using all the,
Foundation.
the
Right, you're
same
using the
footprint.
foundation, but you're going to build a new
Exactly.
building, so it's not,
Exactly.
you're not rehabbing the building that's
Exactly.
there.
Okay,
You're not putting any housing, apartments, or anything
No.
above it, it's just going to be used for the business? Because
Exactly.
these were some of the questions that
Yes.
were brought up. Do we have any other questions for the board as to the residents' concerns?
And I just want to make it clear that this access point from Castle Drive is an emergency access only. We'll comply with whatever the fire marshal wants us to do in terms of bollards or...
Did the fire marshal ask for that, or is that something you decided to do?
Fire marshal asked for that.
Did they? Okay.
What type of buffer system do you have between Mr. Foley's property and your business proposal?
Right now, we have 27 spruce trees proposed along the boundary, common with the residential neighbors. We have 14 plus another 12, 26, 35 deciduous trees, 27 evergreens, the white spruces, and 14 shrubs on this, proposed as part of this development.
But what do you have adjacent to this property?
He's on Street Road, I think, that guy.
I apologize, I'm not following the question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Foley lives adjacent to the property, behind? Okay, so that's where the trees are?
He's behind.
Deciduous trees, is that what you said?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 evergreens.
And not being Tony Belfield, which means I don't know too much about this part of it, explain to me, a deciduous tree will be how wide and how big? And-
Sorry,
and what
these are evergreens.
That's
So
what I
they are
thought.
going to get approximately 15 to 20 feet wide, and at full maturity, you're looking at plus or minus 40 to 60 feet high.
How long will it take till that they mature into a significant buffer for the neighbors in the rear?
You're looking at, depends on the growing conditions, but realistically, it could take several years.
And what kind of fence is behind there also?
I believe, and I apologize. I'm sorry?
There was going to be a fence.
That's right, we were talking about either a privacy stockade or shadow box of some sort. I'm sorry?
I don't remember the size of it, but I know.
Normally, it's a 6-foot-high fence.
But you are putting a fence back there as well?
Yes, and we can make that a condition of,
But we don't want it to be, we want it we don't want it to be a stockade type fence. I mean, that's pretty, yeah.
Yeah,
more
we
of a
would want a
privacy.
6-foot privacy fence to provide
And then the trees will
buffer
be in
until
front
the
of
trees can grow and
Trees will be in
mature.
front of the fence, and then they'll grow.
Correct.
We'd agree to that as a condition.
What does the facade of the building look like? Do you have any idea of what?
I would defer to the architect, but I believe you're looking at either a drive-it or stucco type surface, but I would defer to him. Aside from the foundation, I don't think
Is
that's...
he here to answer our
Mr.
questions?
Takita is not here.
Unfortunately, no.
And no renderings, correct? You have no renderings.
No, we do not.
Well, I think that would be important for us to have those questions answered as to what's going to be there, because it does affect people living behind it, and it does affect the appearance on the street road corridor too, which we've taken pride in making them to that point. So I think that's something we should have answers to. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but.
Well, I mean, the existing plans in front of us say existing building to be remodeled. But you're telling us you're going to demo the building, keep the foundation, but build a new building on there.
What happened is the prior contractor, R&R Construction, had done some investigating inside after we got our approval in 2015. The interior was water damaged and had, I apologize, it was 6 years ago. I don't remember if it was carpenter ants or termites, but the wood framing was...
It all has to be gutted and replaced. At that point, it's,
You're being polite. Yes, it was compromised.
I would imagine that it wouldn't pass any code inspections at this point.
That's why we went to the approach of, we're going to replace it and utilize the existing foundation.
Okay.
Is there going to be a dumpster on this location?
There is, and it's proposed here, far away, but pretty much as far away from this resident as possible. It's part of the access drive loop. It is enclosed, and there will be vegetation surrounding it.
And if we were to put a time constraint on when it can be picked up and not, that would be something that may be a concern. I live down the street from a 7-Eleven at 2 o'clock in the morning. They're slamming, and I don't live right on top of it. There's people that live behind it. You know, I think that we have to look at this thing for the neighbors as it is now and make sure the dumpster's being picked up at a fair time to not be bothering the residents.
We've had those problems all over the township.
Yeah.
So
Near Belmont Ridge, too.
Yeah.
What's that, Joe?
Say near Belmont Ridge, too.
Okay, Belmont, what you said.
That would be amenable to the client.
How many deliveries, first of all, how many years has that building been there across the street?
The one we are currently using, or the one that we are?
The current one.
The current one is 25 plus, 25 years or more.
So you've been there 25
Yes.
plus years.
Yes. And we have.
I had no idea what that building was, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I know, because it's pretty small. I mean, we're not looking into, we just don't want to pay rent anymore.
How many deliveries do you?
We only get deliveries 2 days a week.
2 days a week?
Yes, Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And the deliveries that you receive,
Yes.
are they Mack trucks?
No, they're small trucks, like the UPS type, that size.
And just to confirm with you that there is no cooking on site, nor will there be seating and/or outdoor seating?
No, there's not. I hate restaurants. To tell you the truth, I could never get into the retail of a restaurant because it's too much. Right now, all I'm looking for is just to move the place that I am, and the same thing we're doing is what we're gonna be doing at this location.
Are you selling to individuals, or are you wholesale?
We only do individuals.
Thank you.
What time of day do you usually get those deliveries?
The deliveries come around 4 p.m.,
Okay.
2 p.m. sometimes, but it's always after 12.
So it's never early morning, it's never late
early
at night?
morning. We don't open the doors until 9 p.m. 9 p.m., 9 a.m.,
9
I'm
a.m.
sorry.
Okay.
9 a.m.
Do you find it necessary to have those hours? They seem to be very extended hours for only 5 cars coming
Right.
to your place a day.
Well, the thing is, like, the reason why we are open until 9 p.m. is because most of our clientele work really late. They usually get out of work at 6 p.m. So really, the time frame that they have, it's very little, 6 to 9. But that's the only reason why we keep it open until 9.
Okay.
Okay.
Would there be any issue with making sure that there's a restriction to ensure that there's no access on that emergency prior to opening up that site?
Well, we can do
I'm not
that.
sure if I understand the question.
We can do that. We can say it's for fire and police use, can't be used by the business for
Yeah,
any reason.
I just want to make sure that those bollards or whatever the fire marshal decides to put up there goes there first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no occupancy permit to be issued until the,
Well, not only that, but if you're taking the building down, and we don't want trucks bringing materials in, taking them out, going through there either.
Right.
Everything should be through Street Road, that's what they're asking.
Yeah.
is there an access?
You're agreeable to that?
There's no access there now, so.
There's no access now, so that wouldn't be put in until afterwards.
Could I just speak?
And Mrs. Foley is correct, that when we approved it in 2015, there was no fire lane in front of the building, that there was nothing shown in the way of vehicular access to Street Road. But the applicant has added the fire lane at the recommendation of the Township Fire Marshal based on their review of the plan today, that it should be a lane specifically reserved just for fire trucks should one, God forbid, or an ambulance, God forbid, ever have to come there. Well, that, as you're hearing
Well, we'll put
tonight,
an
that
end to
will not
that.
be the case.
I was not at that meeting, so I can't answer that.
My question is, if Joe, if they're taking a building down to the foundation, when they rebuild that building, then our permit process and inspection, make sure that they build a quality building and it meets all the requirements have to be.
Well, that's
All the
correct.
permits have to be
It-
applied for. They can't just put any kind of building there. They have to put a building that meets the current requirements of a business along Street Road.
That's correct. They'll have to meet all of the 2021 codes that are in place for construction of that category of a building, what'll be a retail store. So the fire code, the building code, all of the, it'll have to be sprinklered, it'll have to be all the different
Yeah,
things.
quality of
it'll
the
have to be.
windows and the roof and stuff. It'll all be under inspection, so they won't be able to put any kind of building. It's not sufficient.
That's correct.
One other thing, the emergency access, is it going to be paved? What's that going to look like? It's going to be paved?
Sorry. Yes, it is intended to be paved.
Yeah, I mean, does it have to be?
Well, it has to support, emergency vehicles, so.
Is it-
But it could be stone, it doesn't have to be blacktop.
Well,
Right.
I think what you were talking about, those, the landscape pavers?
Something to that sort, so then this way it doesn't appear as if it's an access?
Exactly.
We can go back to the fire marshal and ask if he would find that acceptable. I have no problem with that.
Something to deter any vehicles from even thinking about using it as an access point.
Right.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you could eliminate any kind of curb cut there too, couldn't you? So that the emergency vehicles would have to go over the curb, but I don't think that wouldn't be an issue, would it?
As long as it meets the township curb requirements, yeah.
So if that's sufficient for the fire marshal, we don't have to put a curb cut
So
there.
you would be in agreement that whatever the fire marshal's department asked for and that Russ approved, that you would make it, that it would be non-use of a road except
We don't want to
emergency.
use for roads.
And
so
I
we'll-
understand what Ed's asking for, because we have people, we put them up there and people just say, hey, the heck with that, I'm going right through that chain and I'm going to use that as a driveway to get in and out. That's the kind of stuff that we.
And we don't want
try to
somebody
avoid.
opening the gate and letting trucks come through.
No, right.
Yes.
I understand. And like I said, maybe eliminating a curb cut would,
Right.
be a further deterrent,
From
obviously.
an aesthetics purpose, I think it would probably look nicer rather than actually have asphalt there in front of the building
I think
anyway.
as long as it's heavy enough to handle the
Right.
weight of a fire truck,
Right.
you're okay.
Right.
Right. They're probably not gonna be that close anyway.
I mean, how close do you have to get with a fire truck?
Don't ask me, ask.
Hopefully
ask the
never,
fire chief.
hopefully we never need to know the answer to
What
that.
I'm saying is like, you need this road anyway. Why do you need it?
Right.
Period.
Well, I guess if something was happening in the parking lot, they couldn't get a truck back there.
Do we have any other questions for the applicant? If not, at this time, a motion would be in order. If you want to come up and talk, you can. Public comment was closed, but we'll allow you. Yes.
Hi, Ellen Foley again. How can we move forward if they're going to take down the existing structure and we don't know what they're going to be put in its place?
We just spoke about that. It has to be done by ordinance. Our building and planning department and our inspection department would have to go out and inspect to make sure that it meets all the requirements of what the township ordinances and zoning ordinances ask
So
for.
the specific nature of this business is a food retail?
It's food retail, no
restaurant.
No restaurant, no outdoor seating, no living spaces above.
And my other concern before in the past was the rodents and, you know, what a food store brings. Do they have anything, do they have a termite? Do they get sprayed? Like what?
That's something that building and planning would work through and do that because, yes, you have to make sure that there's no issues. But if they have
Because what was
rodents and things
communicated
in there
in the
and they're
meeting
selling
too
stuff,
is,
I don't think that would be, I can't speak for them, but, you know, their store wouldn't be open very often, very long.
well, what was
because people wouldn't
communicated
buy.
in the March 17th meeting by their daughter is they don't have any problem and because everything's packaged. I know, I've been around a long time, but packaged or not, it still brings.
These are all things that the Board of Health looks at. They do their inspections. We have our people that do their inspection. The Board of Health is very tough on things like this when you get to food stores and stuff. So I'm not going to say you're not going to have any problems with it because that would be crazy of me to do that because I can't guarantee what people do. But I would think that, you know, if you're going to run a business, you're going to be selling food, you don't want to be selling food that has anything having to do with rodents and bugs and things
I
of that
understand,
nature.
it just, it was crazy to me that that was even expressed, that there would not be an issue because everything's packaged. So for them to believe that, I was
Well,
taken back.
They fall under guidelines of the Board of Health who inspect food places that sell food, people, restaurants, they have their part that they have to follow. So that would be something that the township doesn't do. That is a Board of Health thing that would be done by the county.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just for her peace of mind. As it is right now, we are being inspected by the health department, and you can look at the records of Lasteca Inc. We have never, ever had any pest in our store. And we get pest control every month. So as it is right now, I mean, we've been there 25 years, and we have always complied with them.
Okay.
Thank you very much, appreciate that.
Okay, do we have any other questions from, all right, you'll be the last question for this week. Public comment was closed, but go ahead, give you the
All right.
opportunity.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I thought it was odd that Mrs. Cruz stated that she had no interest in a restaurant-style type of business when the original proposal was for just that.
We're not on the original proposal.
I know, but I'm just saying that she stated that she had no interest whatsoever, but initially, she did.
We are making it a term, it's part of the agreement that they cannot and will not be able to run a restaurant or put tables out there for people to eat.
What about a delicatessen?
That would all be,
Lunch meat, hoagies?
that's not in front of us, so, I mean, that's not something that.
Well, I don't even want it to get there, because like I said, I mean.
I understand that,
I
but
mean, if
you're-
I gotta take legal action, I'm prepared to do it, trust me.
I
Because like I said, I have a vested interest, like my whole life is at stake here.
I understand.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any more comments or questions from the board? If not, a motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion that we approve the final land development for Taxa Incorporated, Street Road and Castle Drive for a retail store that we prohibit a restaurant at that location or any seating for a restaurant at that location. It's zoned general commercial. The applicant will make any adjustments to the emergency road that the fire marshal and our engineer agree would be safe for a fire truck use only. They will block off that road, and it permitted not have a curb cut on Castle for that property. Is there anything else, Joe, Mr. Pizzo, that needs to be?
Bunch of
Defense.
waivers and
As to my notes, and please feel free to either correct me or supplement, insofar as the review letter from T&M dated February 27, item 1 under section C is will comply. Items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 under section D are all will complies. Items 1, 2, 3 under section E, stormwater, are all will complies. Items 1, 2, and 3 under section F, general comments, are all will complies. And items 1 through 16 under section G, which are the prior conditions of approval from 2015, are all will complies. The applicant will comply with all of the prior conditions of approval to the extent that they haven't otherwise been, what's the verb I'm looking for? To the extent they're not in conflict with the specific conditions that you might put out tonight.
Okay, and then if it's...
As to additional comments from this evening,
We want the 6-foot privacy fence across the rear of the property.
applicant has agreed that they will install a 6-foot-high privacy fence along the common property line with the adjacent residential properties. The applicant has agreed that the on-premises trash pickup hours will be restricted. Is there a window of time?
I would
within-
say during business hours.
During, the trash pickup will be during business hours. That's consistent with what we're requiring of businesses today, to the extent that we can impose those conditions on new businesses as they come in, to address that problem that we're experiencing in other places in the township. At this point, deliveries would also would occur during business hours. I believe Ms. Cruz testified that they typically come after 12, and normally the window is between 2 and 4, so could we restrict deliveries from between 12 and 6? Is that something that works? So deliveries would be between 12 and 6? Okay. And then, as you said earlier, Mr. Knowles, there will be no on-premises consumption of food, no indoor or outdoor seating on the premises, and that sales will be retail, not wholesale.
And we did have a time period that they were going, their hours, Joe. What was it, what time was it, 9?
9 to 9, Monday through Saturday, and 9 to 7 on Sunday. As far as the buffering goes, Mr. Dumack explained to you that in addition to the 6-foot-high privacy fence that we discussed, the plan does currently show a number of different trees on the site, and specifically there are evergreens that will be planted along the common property line, in addition to other spruce trees, deciduous trees, evergreens, and shrubs. I don't know if there's any additional room for additional plantings, or whether the privacy fence and the
got a lot of trees,
large evergreens and the other trees will do it, but that's consistent with what you would normally require where you have a non-residential use adjacent to a residential use. So those would all be conditions of approval based on my notes from the discussion this evening. I might say parenthetically, as not part of the motion, if I might, Ms. Foley did make mention of a covenant, if you will, for the use of the properties that came up during the TD Bank approval. Her recollection, or she is correct, that that is an issue that did come up. And at the time that it came up in the context of TD Bank, the same as would be true today, that's an issue between the property owners in the Stanwood development and the owner, in this case, the Cruises. TD Bank had to go to all of you and deal with... Republic Bank had to go to all of the neighbors and get their approval to the relaxation or revocation, I'm not sure exactly what, of that particular covenant. So it doesn't apply to the township. It's not enforceable by the township. So, to the extent that that may still be out there, or at this point it may be gone as a result of whatever efforts Republic Bank took, but I leave that to you and your neighbors to determine if there's anything there that needs to be done. The only other comment I might make, Mr. Polari, is the township did go about rezoning that stretch of Street Road. I've been here 20 plus years, and I'm going to say it was certainly more than 10 years ago. And at that time, the township was hearing from the neighbors in Stanwood specifically that those houses that face onto Street Road were becoming vacant, were becoming dilapidated, were becoming an eyesore, were becoming an attractive nuisance for vandals, for vermin and the like. And the township took the action then of rezoning those properties that do face onto Street Road specifically to make them general commercial as opposed to residential, because they were no longer attractive as residential properties. They were being abandoned as residential properties. And that was a very public process that took place in here, a public meeting. All of the property owners adjacent to the properties that were rezoned were notified of that when it happened. So what the township did then was, in response to requests from the residents of Stanwood and other places in the township as well, that it was just becoming a very unattractive stretch of roadway. Since then, you've seen what's happened. Some of those have now been replaced with professional offices and the like. But the properties along that stretch are zoned for this particular use, and again, it is the result of the township responding to the township council in particular, responding to what was then the request of the residents to address that problem with properties that were, in many cases, in your neighbors' backyards.
Okay, so...
The only thing I would like to add to the motion, if it could be changed, or at least considered by the council, is that the trash pickup was based on the hours that you were using at this time. I think it should be from 9 to 6 p.m., 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
that's a good point, Ed. I forgot that they were open till 9 o'clock at night.
So I think that's reasonable for any pickup company to come before that time, and I extend it to 6. It should be 9 to 5, but I think 6 should be fine. That way, if children are going to bed 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, they're not getting woke up by...
Yeah, so I'll add Mr. Pizzo's comments to my motion, and also changing the hours that pickup for trash is allowed from 9 to 6 o'clock.
And can you make an addition to your motion? There be no living in the building or above the building, or any living facilities?
And it's a retail operation. There's no residential properties. Will be part of the property.
No apartments, none of that?
Nope.
And I'll go ahead and make that second, Mr. Polari. Just a couple of compensating factors on it. I think it's important to note that the applicants had a prior approval. I believe partly it was delayed due to the impact of COVID. So we're approving the plan as it was originally previously approved years ago. Secondly, as Mr. Pizzo had noted, the zoning is currently listed as GC, and the development was submitted by right as it's zoned currently. I do recognize the concerns with the traffic, and I do believe, based off of this type of business, that we're looking at somewhat of a low impact to any impact that we'll have on Street Road.
Okay, that's our motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, 5-0. Good luck.
Sorry about that. No.
Number 14 on the agenda will be consideration of a public hearing of an ordinance amending Chapter 225 Vehicle and Traffic, Article 2 Traffic Regulations, Section 6, Appendix A, shall be amended to add the following: Lincolnia Avenue northbound and southbound at the intersection of Lincolnia Avenue and Cedar Avenue, for stop signs, and Cedar Avenue, eastbound and westbound, Lincolnia Avenue and Cedar Avenue.
Yes, Mr. Polari, you'll recall that this item was on council's agenda at your last meeting. As the hour had drawn quite late, it was tabled forward to this evening's meeting. So the proposed ordinance having been advertised in the Courier Times for your meeting of August 23rd, the ordinance was tabled that evening to a date certain of this evening. So notice for the action is in order. Accompanying the proposed ordinance in your packets are the evaluation that was performed by the Township Police Department as to the complaint that had been originally received from the mayor's office. As is the typical case, when the mayor's office receives a complaint such as this or a request that the township look into it, township police undertake a thorough study, which in this case included a visual inspection, a review of the 5-year crash history of the intersection, and a radar recorder being placed out to determine the traffic counts and the traffic speeds. As a result of that, it was recommended to the mayor's office, and the mayor is recommending to you that the township place the stop signs within the Lincolnia neighborhood on Lincolnia Avenue at its intersection with Cedar, and on Cedar Avenue at its location, or at its intersection with Lincolnia Ave, due in large measure to the history of crashes that have occurred at that intersection. The ordinance is in a form acceptable for your consideration and approval this evening.
Okay, do we have a motion from the board or any questions?
Before a motion is made, I just want to make a comment that I really do appreciate Officer Muller's report. It has a whole lot of detail in here about the study, the evaluation, the crash history. I think in the 4 years that I've been up here, this is the first time I've seen this level of detail. And I think it's fantastic. I'd love to see this in the future as well. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the resolution as presented.
I'll second.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, 5-0. Number 15, consideration of a land development extension agreement, applicant VIP Wireless, site information 1411 Ford Road, tax parcel 245-31-1. Mr. Pizzo.
Yes, as is commonplace with many of the land development projects that are taking place in the township, the land development agreement that is in place is coming up upon its expiration, and the developer is asking for an extension of that agreement. In this case, that request is coming from VIP Wireless Holdings for their property located at 1411 Ford Road. They're asking for a very modest 30-day extension to extend the agreement out to the 30th of September. This is, again, the standard form of extension agreement that the township uses. It is in a form acceptable for your consideration and approval this evening. Should you choose to approve it, it would be subject, as we always recommend, to the audit by the Township Finance Department and the Township Engineer to make sure that sufficient funds remain in escrow to complete the improvements should the developer fail to do so in the next 20 days.
Any questions?
Can we get an update from Mr. Neron on this? Because I know that we had approved a 30-day extension, I think, in July. So I'm assuming that that extension has expired. I just kind of want to know where we are, and is 30 days sufficient? What's the holdup here?
So I haven't talked to the contractors, but I did check with my inspector. He was out there last week because he thought they were going to be doing some curbing. That was not done. I did check with him tonight just to make sure. He did tell me they're looking for a paving contractor. So I think there's a holdup with the contractors on who's doing what out there. But all we have left is the parking area, as we talked to you about last time.
Right, okay. Given the fact that we're already halfway through September and he doesn't have a paving contractor, is 30 days sufficient?
Depends on if you find a
they're
contractor.
talking about extending it to the end of September, so we only have another
2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if he has a contractor, there's not much paving to do. It's only like a 15-space parking area.
Mr. Sloan,
I know that we can't grant more than that.
Not that they're, I realize they're only asking until September 30, but rather than revisiting this in October, unless Mr. Neron or Mr. Benner feel that there's some reason not to, perhaps extending it out till the end of the year.
Mr. Pizzo, do we have the authority to do that? Because this is a request to extend it
Yes.
only 30 days.
What we would do is, if you're agreeable to extending it out to the end of the year, we'll notify the developer to come in and sign a new extension agreement, and then Mr. Polari and Mr. Kisselbeck can sign it after we've, so that's all.
Do we want to go to the end of the year and give them that time to play with it and maybe not get it done till, then come back for next year?
At least give them October or something, you know.
Maybe November.
End of November, you think?
Well, that's when paving's, you can't really do any paving
Right,
after
and once we hit the
November.
winter weather, they're not going to get it done
Correct.
anyway.
So we'll make
So-
it to the end of November?
End of November, November
Okay.
30.
Yep.
All right, so,
Do you want to put that in a motion?
yeah, I wanted, does anybody else have any questions first? All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the extension of the land development agreement to November 30th,
Quinn
2021.
Man close.
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it. Number 16, consideration of a reduction of fees for Holy Ghost Preparatory School Mothers Guild located at 2429 Bristol Pike, Bensalem, PA.
Hard to believe that summer's over and we're already looking forward to the annual craft show at Holy Ghost Prep, but it is fast approaching. So I think everyone on council is well acquainted with the annual craft show that they hold on the grounds at Holy Ghost each year as a fundraiser for the Mothers Guild and ultimately for the students at the school. It usually entails a fairly large tent. This would be the standard waiver request that we receive from Holy Ghost, and the waivers, I believe, are consistent with what you have done in the past, if you're inclined to do so again this year.
Yeah, Mr. Pizzo, can you just confirm those amounts? Calculated at 50%, particularly the other bond portion?
Well, the bond, we came across this a couple weeks ago with another one. I think it can be reduced down to this amount, the $2,500, if they've already submitted the bond. So that
That was for the car show.
And keep in mind that, again, what we're reducing is, we're not requiring them to pay $2,500 to the township. What they're required to do as part of the special events ordinance is post a bond with a face amount of $10,000, which the cost of which is significantly less than $10,000. In this case, we're saying we don't really need a $10,000 bond for this event. $2,500 is what they're asking. I believe that that fee's been okayed by the Department of Public Safety.
It's a quarter.
Okay.
It has.
Not
and
50%.
The only thing
Right,
coming to the
that's
township
what-
is
that's what-
300, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this isn't an out-of-pocket fee that they're paying to the township like the special events fee is. This is the amount of a bond that we're requiring them to post.
And we can provide the authorization for that reduced bond amount.
Yeah, I think as long as they realize that if we are reducing that bond, they're still going to be liable for any excess of $2,500 if there's damage is done. I think that should be part of the agreement, so they realize that we're giving them a consideration.
I mean, that's a legal issue for how the bond is handled. I don't think there's anything that we have to worry about with that. It's-
Yeah, well, as long as they understand that's the case, because if they're applying for a $10,000 bond according to the recommendations of their bond counsel, and we're saying you only need a $2,500 bond, there could be an argument made there. I think.
Well, we're not saying they only need. We're saying that $2,500 will be acceptable to us for our purposes. What they need in the way of insurance for this event and their property is entirely between them and their insurance carriers. But
Right.
for the township's purposes, this event, as opposed to some others, the size and scope of it, a $2,500 bond would suffice for our purposes. But again, we're certainly not saying that that's all the insurance they would need for this or any event.
As long as that's what we're saying, I'll be fine with that.
I'll make the motion that we approve the reduction of permit fees for Holy Ghost Prep School Mothers Guild located at 2429 Bristol, specifically for their event dated November 13th and 14th.
We have a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, 5-0. Number 17 on the agenda, consideration of an escrow release, Galway Galway Reserve, AKA Victory Square, 2670 Galway Road, 2-33-7, in the amount of $117,200.75. Mr. Benner.
Mr. Tokmej, I am Mr.
Yeah,
Bennett.
thank you, Mr. President. The original amount requested by the applicant was for $123,317.75. We felt, after reviewing the request, that we felt there are some additional monies that we want to hold back so that the amount is equal to the $117,200.75. This escrow release is essentially for 4 items. The applicant has completed work within the basin, and correct me if I'm wrong, Quentin, he has put under drains into that basin, which was one of the concerns why we had not granted previous escrow releases. They have completed final paving, a couple of landscaping trees, and the tot lot has been provided. Now, this leaves a balance of $142,918. Within the past 10 days, we have gotten a request from the developer for a final closeout. That's triggered a final inspection that Quentin and his inspector is completing, and that will present that final punch list to the developer before we'll act on any more releases as far as the balances of the money that are left.
How are they doing with the residents' punch list for the houses that they built? Since there was a lot of people that weren't getting answers, weren't getting things done, has that gotten any better, Quentin?
I have not heard anything else from the warranty division, but from the developers, land development guys, supposedly they've gone and addressed everything that they were supposed to.
Quentin, there was a meeting, I believe the homeowners association had a report that was put out, and then there was subsequently was a meeting with the homeowners association, the developer, and then their independent
Right, so that was about a month ago. We walked at several locations on the property, a couple of different items. Biggest thing was their basin. The other one was the tot lot, which we're just having them put a U-drain system in to kind of drain that area out, because I don't know the lot number, but he's getting a lot of like residual water coming from the tot lot mulch. We walked through back of a couple other areas regarding the swales. We told them we're pretty much giving them an options, either adjusting their inlet grates or doing some minor regrading around those just to divert any water into the inlets. For the most part, there were some issues with this, parking. That was straightened out at that point. The HOA and their management company asked for some other information because they were unclear on some other issues. Not gotten that to them yet, but I'm trying to get that out. But I've just not been in the office this last couple of weeks. So, but for the most part, I think all the miscellaneous issues have not been addressed. Our inspector did go back and recheck to make sure all his items were addressed or not. They're on the punch list, which I believe was getting sent out tomorrow, if not already late today.
Thank you.
The basin, it says that you're retaining some of the funds to make sure that it functions properly.
Yeah,
They still not having full functionality?
Well, it's working. Well, what they did was there was one U-drain going down we'll say the center of the basin.
Okay.
And it wasn't now allowing that water to percolate into that U-drain. So what they did was they got approval from us as well as the county conservation to put, we'll call them fingers, like T's, so additional U-drain with the rock all the way to the surface. So it's actually going through the rock and into that U-drain. From what I understand, when I was out there today, it was pretty much dry except for a little bit of riprap area, but the floor itself was dry. So I'm not sure if that's because of what they did or.
Okay, so it looks like it might be functioning properly at this point.
Oh, and, yeah, and we're monitoring that.
Right.
Yeah,
After rain falls, we go out, we look at it, we see how
Yeah,
it's
so
functioning.
right now, there's, the cleanouts need to be put in to flush those U-drains if they need to.
Is there enough funds left to
Yes.
address
Yeah,
that?
I mean, it's pretty much done.
Yeah.
It's pretty much done except for us putting a couple cleanouts in.
You may get to figure that out real soon with Hurricane Nicholas coming in.
Yeah. The paving, that's done, but it says, so there's a note on here, releasing escrow but reserve the right to have any adjustments made at a later date. How do we make adjustments if we release everything? Is there
Well,
enough
just
in
pretty much-
contingency?
Well, basically, when we go through, we're looking at the overall.
Yeah.
Overall's done. There might be, like something here that they need to adjust, like a 1/4 inch here or something like that, or seal something there. I know we did see one today where there was like a 1/2 inch lip at a location where we're going to have them cut that out.
Just tell them to do it and they'll do it at this point?
Right.
Okay.
So,
And then, for the landscaping, you added the footnote on here for the shade trees. I'm assuming that was, is that by accident? Because nothing's being withheld from the shade trees.
let me just look real quick.
I just want to make sure that we're covering everything, that's all.
There's no, I don't see anybody out there.
Right, so originally, when the developer went in, there's, I think, 3 homeowners that did not want trees on their lots. So I think there was 8 or 9 trees that people did not want. So basically, we told them, we're fine, put them on the open space. However, we want the homeowners to sign off on those trees, because I don't want them coming back at us saying we didn't get trees.
Okay.
So we're waiting for that. We did get the trees planted, but we're just waiting for them
Waiting
to
for
get all that
that,
stuff.
okay. Makes sense. That's all I had, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, a motion would be in order.
I will make a motion that we approve the escrow release for Galloway Reserve in the amount of $117,200.75, subject to audit by the Finance Department.
Ed second it.
Second by Mr. Kisselback. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, 5-0. Quentin, before I go to public comment, could you come up, please? Can you give us an update on what's going on with the dirt pile down at the property on 13?
Sure. So right now, we do have a meeting on Thursday with Russ and Ken Farrell from the building department, the design engineer and the owner and the contractor. See where they're at, see what we can do, what they need to be directed on, where they're going with dirt, because we did get the floodplain line staked out, I guess it was Thursday or Friday last week. So there's a little bit more area in the back. So right now, the area that dirt was going to at 919 is pretty much full. So we're not taking any more dirt up there until we get that rough graded in. So we're assuming that we don't have much more space up there. So we're
so what are we
going to
gonna
meet
do?
down there and see exactly what they're going to be doing.
So there's no more dirt that's coming off, because someone told me through the grapevine that they had nowhere to put the rest, so that's why they were keeping it there. So that's not the.
No, well,
correct?
the original location at 919 was supposed to have enough space to hold the dirt. I think it was a 1 week of hauling dirt up there, and it just filled up too quick. So we pretty much put a hold on that, just so there's dirt that we have to take out of that as well.
Was there an engineered plan to move the dirt?
And there is an escrow. He did have to put in that cash
Right.
escrow up for it also, so.
We weren't concerned about water, recognize there was an engineer plan, we weren't concerned about water runoff on that property where we were moving the dirt?
Well, the property already drains, and there's a land development process or approved behind that with the detention basin where all the water is being directed to. So there's not going to be any water directed on any of our abutting properties except for where it's going now and the future basin that will come in.
And we were monitoring that during the move?
Correct.
Okay. And you've inspected it at this point, and you've made the determination that it's full at this point?
Yeah, because the way the trucks are coming in, they're just making like a plateau and like a steep cliff. And we're telling them that we can't have that because we have to, first off, for maintenance. So we're going to cut the plateau back, shape it down so it's a more gradual slope instead of like a steep grade. So until that happens, I don't want any more dirt coming in there, because if we bring more dirt coming in, then we have to haul it out if we can't move it
Of
around.
course, and I think some of the neighbors around there are looking at that steep cliff that you
Right.
noted, and they're nervous, and I
Right.
would be too.
Right. So
What's the ETA on getting that?
well, hopefully
Grade.
Thursday we get that all ironed out at our meeting.
What's the ETA on the work being done to grade that out?
I have no idea on the ETA.
I just don't want to move one problem down the street to another.
Correct.
So
Well, and on top of that, I mean, we still need to resolve the issue of the original dirt pile. I mean,
Correct.
this was supposed to be engineered so that all of it could be removed, and now you're saying that there's more dirt than they thought?
Yeah, that's correct.
I mean,
Yeah, that's
Pretty
that's
much
exactly,
exactly
that's
what it is.
exactly correct. And, you know, their calculations showed that they had adequate area. They didn't have adequate area. And that's why we're meeting Thursday.
Okay.
As far as the disposition of the remainder of that dirt, where that's going to get worked
Does
out.
the county conservation district have to weigh in on that?
They will, depending on.
Once you guys kind of
exactly.
decide where.
And if it's
Right.
got to go someplace else.
Yes,
And they are involved with the.
they have been,
with the
yes.
dirt
Yeah.
to take off
They-
Mr. Popley's property.
Correct.
Right, they issued permits for both locations, and we had our pre-construction meeting
Now,
with them.
after Thursday, will you have an estimated time of when the
Yeah, we
project
should.
will be
Yeah, we
complete?
should, yeah, absolutely.
So at our October 4th meeting, you'll be able to give us
Provide
the
them.
results of
Yeah.
where we are and what's going on.
Yeah, if it's not
Yeah,
completed at that
absolutely.
time. So,
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question? I guess I'm guessing it was the property owner that had decided to move that dirt down the street, and why wouldn't we look for a site that could take all the dirt on one shot, such as a landfill or something that would be maybe a little bit more suitable, rather than getting an engineer plan for a second location to just drop dirt?
Well, I mean, him as the property owner of both properties certainly has the ability to take that dirt as long as he gets necessary approvals from A, the Conservation District, B, the township, and he doesn't alter drainage or any other issues with that at the location that he went to. So he has the ability to do that. But the final goal here, the final requirement on is he has to remove that dirt pile, the original pile, and get the dirt out of there at approved sites. This site that he had, A, he owned, B, he was able to get Conservation District approval for it, so he was allowed to do it. There's nothing preventing him from doing that because he's the landowner.
Seems like he's saving a giant pile of dirt for a rainy day.
Well,
I mean, could he sell it as fill?
yeah.
Well, he could. But once again, selling that as fill, remember the goal here is to get rid of it off of the existing site.
Oh, no,
You know, I don't want to.
I agree.
I don't want to be selling fill out of there for, an extended
No,
period of time.
I agree with that.
Whether he takes it someplace else, gets it approved, then he wants to take it out of that area.
Yeah, you're right.
in
These are
some
more
other-
questions, I think, for Mr. Popley
Yeah.
than you.
Once again, even that, if he decides to do that, that has to be approved, because
Of
once
course.
again, he'll be taking it out. The agreement is now, you get rid of it, you get it out, you put it in place, you stabilize it, you grade it properly, and that has to be done.
And
Period.
we do have an escrow that if he
Oh,
doesn't
yes.
get it moved, we have
Yeah,
the money to move it out.
We
and
do.
take it
We have
somewhere
a
else.
sizable escrow, frankly.
But do we have somewhere to move it to? Because we run into the same exact problem.
Well, eventually, you can move it, you can go out of county if you have to. I mean,
Yeah.
Clearly, you can take it, but you gotta go, and the further you take it, the more it costs. I would
Right,
think.
it's cost.
Yeah, you're talking about trucking.
Yeah.
All right, have we received any formal complaints in terms of any residents at that new location receiving any water?
Not any water issues, concerns about the pile. We were
Of
supposed to have
course.
a meeting last week, which was canceled. I'm not sure when it's rescheduled.
Are we communicating with those residents so that they're aware that the issue is being looked at?
I've actually met them on the site at the new location. Because they were here, the one night voicing their concerns, and then Ken Farrell sent me down there to see what was going on. And by the time they left here, I was already at the site. So we had told them what was going on, but then we were supposed to have a formal meeting, which never got placed because I think the husband was feeling ill that day. So I think that was Thursday, I believe, or Wednesday last week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, number 21, public comment. Is there anyone who'd like to come forward with public comment? Mr.
Good
Conley.
evening, council. Joe Conley, 568 Bristol Pike. I'm here about the dirt pile. I'm also here, I don't know if you guys ever heard of this or not. It's called Uniform Partial Identifier Law. You know what that means? Partial
Yes.
Identifier Law, anybody? Anybody know what it means?
Do you have something you want to give to our
Yeah,
attorney?
I'll give it to Mr. Pizzo.
Go right ahead, sir.
This year is supposed to be accurate.
You can give
My
it,
partial line
give it,
runs through my neighbor's building.
need you to come back out and speak into the microphone, sir.
My partial line runs through my neighbor's building. I cannot sell my property. I don't understand, Joe,
It's a counter-
but I had another surveyor out last week, another surveyor, my 13th land surveyor, Lee Royer Associates. Professional, he says, professional, right? Well, if you read this, my deed says 228 feet, more or less, in the back there. My property is supposed to be 228 feet. It's more or less maybe 50 feet? Could it be more or less 50 feet, or what do you think?
This is an issue.
Well, that's what he put on.
This is an issue you have to take up with the
No,
county.
no, but
It's
you
not a
guys
town-
said.
It's not a
whoa.
township issue.
No, it is a township issue.
No, it's not.
It is.
We
it
don't
is.
make the lot lines and
Because
do that.
you gave Popley permission to put a sign there. The sign is on my property. The sign's on my property.
And you have-
Does Quentin know there's 12 inches in a foot?
Mr. Conley,
Yeah.
you're not gonna be,
Listen, I spent over 200,000, Mr. Polari, okay? 200,000.
that's up
That's
to
a lot of
you.
money.
That's up to you if you wanna get
No,
20 surveys done.
because
Joe. That
I'm
has
covering
nothing
this.
to do with this board.
Listen, Bob Owender built this addition in 1984.
Again,
I have the proof.
Again, it has nothing to do
It
with
does have
us.
something
No,
to
it
do with
doesn't.
council.
Has-
What do you
no,
mean it has something to do with
we-
you guys?
we
Joe,
weren't,
why don't you go to court and get it resolved with the
Listen, I
county
hired
court?
another attorney, 10,000.
If you're-
Another 10?
I know, but if you're-
But he's working with the, listen, he's working with Bucks County,
Listen,
the
I
judges.
hope, if you're 100% correct, why don't you go to the county in front of a judge and prove that you're 100% correct?
I've been trying to do that.
Why
I'm
can't
on
you
my
do it?
fifth attorney.
What happened to the other four? They can't
Well,
do
the
it?
one attorney, he met with the township council at my property, and after he met with the township council, he didn't want nothing to do with
He didn't
me.
meet with
Well, I
council.
asked for my
I didn't-
25,000 back, Michael Kerdner.
Oh, the lawyer.
Michael Kerdner.
Okay,
Yeah, I had,
well, I don't know.
well, first of all, Stan Tech, they surveyed the property, their monument's there. Let me ask you something. How do you survey a property correctly with his deed description being wrong? Since 1942, by
county-
Edward Pickering Jr.
again, the county, Joe, Bensalem doesn't.
I tried the
make it.
county, it's all
Well, you
fixed.
can't- you keep
It's
coming
all
to us
fixed.
and-
I'm gonna be here every meeting, I'm here every meeting, I'll be here
You can
every
come every
meeting.
meeting all you want, we're not gonna be
Yeah.
able to do anything about your lot lines and things.
Nothing.
That's the county, Joe.
How about Mr. Poppy, when there's people sleeping upstairs in the smoke shop? Can you do anything about that or no?
Again, that's
not you?
That's not us, that's the administration. And they have
Administration?
sent people down there to stop.
If I
them
throw a
from
rock
doing
through his window, like it's on my side, because that building's on my property at 2 in the morning, and he comes to the window at 2 in the morning, he's sleeping there. Is that right, that he's sleeping there? All his water is running on my property. No matter what he does with that dirt pile, it ain't gonna matter. Because they let Mr. Popley put 25 inches of blacktop to get the car high enough to get to a drive-through, and he never had to go do no traffic study or nothing. If I was gonna put a drive-through in, I'd have to get a traffic study done. His drive-through goes all the way out to the street, blocking his cars going in and out. You gotta see it on Friday night. Are you guys worried about safety issues and all? About cars going in the wrong way? No, not there. Not at Mr. Popley's property, because he's very connected with the township. Okay? I'll be here. I'm going to try to go. I got to go to federal court, whatever I got to do. But I will fight this every single day. I will fight it every day. Because what's going on here is wrong. I'm paying for his property tax. Anybody else here paying for your neighbor's property tax?
Again, Mr. Conley, that's a county issue.
I went to the county. They don't do nothing. What do I do then?
It's their job, not ours. Why aren't you up there at their meetings yelling and screaming at them?
I must have to go there.
Because
I'll
I'm
go
telling
there.
you,
It don't matter. I'll go to every meeting.
this board cannot change your zoning, where your lot lines are. That's a county
How about your
thing.
engineering department?
They can't do it. It's a
tell me-
county issue, Mr. Conley.
Are you telling your
county
engineering
is
department can't do this?
the county is the only one that can change your lot
We don't
lines.
have the legal authority to do that.
Or the lot lines that they have on their record.
Right.
It's not our record.
What they have here on their record, my line goes through the building.
So go argue with them, not with us. We didn't make them.
But the thing is, you got this guy here, Quentin, your engineer.
Yep.
That's why Matt Tequita left this township, because of the corruption. I'm just letting you know that. I talked to Matt Tequita a lot.
You're making-
You're right, you know that too, Joe.
You're making-
Because he told you that personally. I know that.
You're making some serious,
I
you're
know.
making some serious
Oh, yeah.
threats, Joe.
I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand
That's
that.
not a problem.
Wait a minute,
Not
now
a
you let him blacktop, you put the dirt plow there,
Joe.
but for 7 years, I'm getting erosion fines.
Joe?
Why do I get erosion fines?
What are-
You let him put a dirt pile and blacktop.
What erosion fines, Joe?
What erosion fines?
Yeah.
You want me to bring them to you and show you?
How
For
much-
7 years, you weaponized the justice system against me. That's what you did. That's what this did. That's why we need Val Ridge here. We need Val Ridge to straighten up the corruption.
Okay,
I hope everybody in township votes for Val Ridge.
Thank you, Mr. Conley.
Thank you too. I'll see you next meeting.
Have a great evening.
Yeah, you too. If you tell your engineers.
Have a
it's
nice,
12 inches
have a
and a
nice
foot.
evening, sir. Thank you.
12 inches and a foot.
Have a nice evening.
You do the same.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks
Is there
for-
anyone else that wants to come forward with public comment?
Couple sticks in.
Thank you. Yes,
Good
ma'am.
evening. Hi, my name is Rita Marlowe, and I'm not sure if I'm in the right place. I live over in the Hidden Valley section, and they actually moved our bus stop for the elementary school, which we are so proud of, happy, because it's no longer on Humeville Road. However, we have about 50 kids that get on the bus from our development, and they have to cross that path by St. Ephraim's. It's the grassy area. Excuse me. When it rains, it's a swamp. It doesn't often get mowed because it's such a swamp. I spoke to the, excuse me, the Public Works people that were there a couple of weeks ago maintaining the property. And again, they always do such a fine job, but there's sometimes that they just can't get the equipment in there just because it sinks so badly. And again, we have 50 kids that get on one bus, and they're just sinking into the ground. Our concern is that in the winter, when it's going to ice over, the kids are going to be getting hurt. And also, when they come to plow, they plow to that dead end. So now it's going to be entirely blocked. So our children will not have any access to get to the bus stop at St. Ephraim. I did contact the school district, and they encouraged me to come and ask the township because they weren't sure who was responsible for that area. So we're not sure. We don't have a homeowners association in our development.
Right.
So we're not sure who is responsible for that, and if there would be any possible way that we might be able to just get some kind of pathway there so the kids aren't sinking, they're not having to climb the stone mountain.
We can ask the mayor if he could send Quentin out, take a look at it, our engineers to take a look at it and see what we as a township could possibly do for the safety of the kids. That's very important to us, to the safety of our children. So You know, maybe it's something that we can, we'll have the mayor look into, and I think safety, especially with the mayor too, is important to him.
And I think it would
Is that
also,
township property, that piece of land?
so,
Is it Quentin?
No, but I think they're,
So we're owned by the
are you
church.
saying they're
Township mows
plowing
that?
the street and then putting on the...
township property.
So,
Hidden Valley and
so then it is possible, then, if it's township owned,
Right.
besides the fact that we would have to probably get an easement agreement with Ephraim's then.
Well, that wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
we
so
could
because
definitely
they
look
did
at
do
that.
one, I
But who-
went back.
Who puts the stone there? When the township plows your street?
Yeah, it's not actually my street. I live
No,
all
but I
the way
mean,
up the other end.
It's not St. Ephraim's snow, it's the
No,
Hidden Valley
it's
snow.
it's the Hidden Valley.
So
snow.
our road crew is plowing the street.
Yeah, that's where they
Our road
do.
crew
They would
is plowing
block
the street
the
and making
field
a giant
access.
pile,
And-
which, that's where you would
But that's
put it.
something that the mayor can look at,
We
and
can get that
our
straightened out.
engineering department, to see how we can handle that and control that, so that the kids have a place to go to their buses safely. I mean,
And we know there's children that go from St. Ephraim, but there's a handful of kids that go to St. Ephraim, so maybe like 5 or so. And again, I don't know the number, I didn't go up there and survey, but there's 50 kids that are waiting.
yes.
You know, we fill a whole bus from Hidden Valley. I did, like I said, contact the school district to see if they were able to come in and turn in our development. They said they couldn't fit the bus in there because it has to obviously be a large bus. They couldn't make the turn where it forks, and they can't reverse. So that wasn't an option. So that's why they also encouraged us to come here. So one of the things they did say was they're having a hard time, they wouldn't be able to fit a bus in because there's people that are parking at the top of our neighborhood. There are signs there that say no parking. And again, I don't have kids that go to School Lane, but I see kids waiting there in the morning, and there's cars parking there. I don't know how that gets enforced, but it's not safe. It's not safe for those kids who haven't had their bus stop changed to be standing there because you can't see when the cars are parking there. So I don't know who comes out and
Well,
enforces
if there's no
that.
parking signs there.
There are no
and it's-
parking
and
signs.
it's something that was put there by the township, then it would be the township's responsibility. If you don't have a homeowners,
We don't.
homeowners association, which would be responsible for that, we'll have to look into that too, and see who put the signs there, when they were approved and have. These are all things that we can take a look at, and I'm sure that there's something that we can do to make it safe for the kids. We're gonna do what we have to do. So Russ, maybe you can talk to Ken and talk to the mayor, and let's get Quentin out there and take a look at it and see what we can do to make this safe for the kids.
Ms. Marlowe, could you give your name and address and phone number to Ms. McBreen, so that way, when Mr. Polari speaks to the mayor and Quentin, they can get back to you?
And again, just nothing against the town, I live all the way at the end of the woods, at the end of the development, and we're always very grateful, because they do maintain the areas that they're responsible for
My
very well.
favorite street, Sayre Court.
Sayre Court.
What's the court name there where they're crossing? I forget what.
It's Hunters. It's
Hunters.
North.
Yeah, so
Hunters.
the idea, Russ, was possibly just extend out one of those sidewalks on either the north or south side, and then take it through that grass line.
For 50 kids, you're gonna need more than a little bit on the sidewalk, you're gonna need a path.
Yeah, I mean, because there is an
Just
adequate
get a
area.
path through,
Yeah,
so that they don't
but
have
I thought
to
for
scale a
aesthetics
snow
purposes,
mountain.
you don't probably want to create some type of separate path if you extend that sidewalk from that court.
That's why we're asking them to take a look at it,
Yeah,
and see
yeah.
if we can do
Yeah,
it.
because there's also an area,
Snow during storms.
even though like Hunters Court is where they're actually walking to the bus stop, there's another, I think it's Cadigan. That's terrible. I don't know the street name, but I think it's Cadigan where it forks in the road.
And it goes off to the right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of the kids like go that way too, and I actually know there are 2 kids that use that area to cross St. Ephraim's. But when I had asked the parents, they said that on rainy days they drive the kids. So, but I didn't know if that would also give some of our community members, access to church. I did notice that in the 55 and over community, they do have pathways that do connect them to
There's
the church
definitely
property.
things that we can look at. If you give Debbie your information, we can be in touch with you and talk about the things and what goes on in this way, that the mayor can take it all in, and we can make the decision on what has to happen.
Thanks for keeping my kids safe.
Thank you. All right, Rita, hold on a second. Rita, are you finished? Thank you, okay, yes.
Stacy Champion, I just wanted to follow up at Hunter's Court.
Yes.
It's the court closest to Humeville Road, I'm assuming. There's cars that park a lot on the grass there and go through at times, I think, right over the grass to the drive. Because and just the reason why I say that is I see that from picking my children up at St. Ephraim's.
We can have a
So
look
by
at that.
maybe having a sidewalk there, it may cut down the fact of whoever those homeowners may be in terms of using the grass or coming over in terms of that, because I would agree that there are kids at times playing there.
When I talk to the mayor, we'll ask about that too, and
Yeah,
have a
it
look
just,
into that.
and
so.
when she said that and I looked up where Hunter's Court was, I was trying to see if it was the one in the back, because I know a lot of children walk through the back also.
Yeah.
Is that just during church service where they're parking there?
No, it's the homeowners.
Oh,
The homeowners are parking on the
They get out,
grass?
they get out, they
The
get out.
homeowners are parking on the grass
Gotcha.
at times, right at the edge of Hunter's,
Yeah,
and
I
I
know
guess
what you
the easement with the township and then the St. Ephraim's property.
Right.
And as a parent of a St. Ephraim's child, we don't, our children don't necessarily use that side of the grass, but I'm always worried, I do see children in Hidden Valley that do play along there because they do come over to use St. Ephraim's, either the soccer field in the back, or the basketball courts or what have you, or ride their bikes there. So, you know, as a parent, I always get worried that maybe sometime somebody may not see and coming across the grass, so.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am a Sayre Court alum. My parents bought a house down there when they were first built. Really? I was a senior in high school, and I graduated. I lived there when I graduated from high school.
The best street in Bensalem.
I won't say what year it was because that would show my age, but
We do have the best
yes,
neighbors.
yeah.
We have really great neighbors.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rita.
Do we have anyone else that would like to come forward with any public comment? Seeing no one come, okay, yes, sir.
This is Stephen Scardetto. I'm 6067 Mark Circle, and I've been a tax-paying resident since November of 1989. Unfortunately, in the last 13 years, a pattern of abuse and harassment by this township has befallen me. About 13 years ago, I had a son, my son was born, and I put a jungle gym on my property. The neighbor didn't like that. So I came to the zoning hearing board and presented a case, and they said, well, it was in violation of zoning. So the jungle gym had to be taken down. So it was a $5,000 jungle gym, couldn't use it, had to sell it for scrap. Ever since that time, I have had, starting with Matthew Takita 10 years ago, and then followed by Stephen Terlecki, and now by your latest Sheriff Ken. And I constantly get these notices of violations. I've made no changes to my property. But I got a violation now that I have sheds along the edge. They've been there for 10, 20 years. They've been grandfathered along with the thousands of other sheds in the neighborhood. They're all over Bensalem, but I've been targeted for some reason. I had a fence for 20 years. All of a sudden, that fence is no good, even though it was approved by Rudolph Clark in the last legal suit that they presented against me 3-4 years ago. We had a settlement, said everything was fine. Property was in order. Matthew Takita signed off on that. And then about 3 years ago, I get a notice that I need to meet with Stephen Terlecki and the mayor. So we had a personal meeting, the mayor, myself, and Stephen Terlecki, to talk about where I hung my pool cover. I have a tree, and I hung a pool cover from the tree. Okay? That's hanging from a clothesline from the tree. It's been there for 3 years, right? This was, at the time, addressed by the mayor, and it remained there. All of a sudden, now I've got a notice of violation because the township passed a law after my pool cover was hung that said you can't hang tarps now greater than 6 feet. So I got a notice of violation for that as well. So not only are you writing laws that I'm grandfathered on, but I'm getting notices of violations constantly. Every time there's a new sheriff in town, another notice comes my way for the same things that I've addressed over and over and over. I've tried to contact Mr. Pizzo. I've sent several emails to him. I had a meeting scheduled with the mayor, then he canceled that meeting. I don't know why, but she said, no, that was a meeting in our, can't have a meeting. Oh, why can't we have a meeting? I don't know. She couldn't tell me. Dawn Davis said, I had a meeting scheduled for the 8th. I was supposed to see him. Then Dawn Davis said, oh, I made a mistake. Now you can't have that meeting. And now the mayor won't meet with me. But I was good enough 3 years ago, when Stephen Terlecki was in charge of building and planning, to have said meeting, to find out why I hung my pool cover, which has been there for 3 years. All of a sudden, I got a notice of violation. And another notice of violation to revisit the sheds for the 4th time. Same shed's been there for 20 years. And to revisit the fence. Same fence been there for 20 years, which I've maintained meticulously and is in structurally good order. I even made a deal with the mayor. I said, look, there's a portion of the fence the neighbor doesn't like. I'll take that down, okay? He doesn't like the fence anymore. I'll take that down. Fine. And this is what I get for it. More notices of violation because there's a new guy. As a matter of fact, I even came to see Ken at the office. I said, I saw your inspector out taking pictures of my property. I said, I've built nothing. You can come and look. Didn't bother to do that, but he said my fence was structurally unsound. I don't know how he did that without an inspection. And again, that fence has been there for 20 years. It survived every tornado that's come through, survived the hurricane that came through as well. So I don't know where everything is structurally, Dumac Engineering put a thing, said, this is how you have to build a fence. It's built to withstand 80-mile-an-hour winds. Now, of course, we get tornado direct hit. That's not going to survive anything. It takes the building down. But it's built to be there. But why am I getting harassed constantly? Matthew Takita, Stephen Terlecki, Ken, I don't know his last name because he's a new guy. Explain this to me, guys. And I can't even get a meeting with Mr. Paizo. I've sent emails to him in his office, nothing. I get a couple of phone calls, and then when I call back, nobody picks up the phone.
We can look into it for you, but it's separate parts of the government, administration and council. We make the laws, the mayor takes care of the laws and makes sure that everything's up to the law. We don't tell the mayor what to do with the administration. He doesn't tell the council what to do with the council. So we can look into it, see what the issues are, see what the problems are, and try and get some answers. But we can't overturn whatever the laws are and they're doing because...
But they're writing laws after the things have happened. Wouldn't that grandfather me?
That I can't answer that
There's
question
1,000
for you.
sheds in this neighborhood that are along, as a matter of fact, 2 properties over from you, Mr. Polari. There's a shed right on the property line. It's 1 foot away. All of a sudden, all the sheds that I've had approved by Rudolph and Clark, or all of a sudden I have another notice of violation I have to deal with. And then I don't get people to call me back. I get mayors, they're canceling meetings. I can't get a meeting.
We can ask for information on it. We can't tell the mayor what to do with the administration. He can't tell us.
But you
what
can
to do.
investigate harassment and
We
abuse,
can't-
right?
Well, we can ask him what the details are with the property and what the causes are. We're not calling it abuse because we don't know what the deals are. We know what you're telling us, but we don't know what's happened, what all the details were for every time they came out and cited you. We'd be making comments on things that we know nothing about.
Mr. Paizo should know.
Is there any court case being held?
No, we settled
Towards
it.
it?
I settled it with Rudolph and Clark 3 years ago.
No.
There is no open court case right
So
now.
there's
I have an
nothing-
agreement from the...
Nothing current, you're saying?
Nope, it's all closed and the matter's been dismissed.
How high is I'm your neighbor, by the way, 3 houses down from you, but how high is the fence between you and your neighbor's property?
I'm sorry, what fence are we talking about? I took the
The
fence down.
fence between you and the Pine property.
There's 6 foot. His fence is 7 foot.
How high is that big triangle thing that's on the side of your house?
Big triangle thing?
There's a big giant triangle thing.
That's a pool cover. That's been there for 3 years. It's hung by a clothesline. Again, the township wrote a law that you can't hang your tarp now higher than 6 feet, because I hung that 3 years ago.
Okay, but you're saying you're willing to take it down because the neighbor doesn't like it? Why
No,
don't
I
you just
took the
take it
fence down. I had a fence there. Again, approved by the township, by an engineering study 20 years ago. He didn't like the fence. So I had to deal with the mayor, and I said, okay, I'll just take the fence down, because I got a notice of violation for that 20 years after the fence was put up. Oh, it's structurally unsound now, even though it's made to withstand 80 mile an hour.
I thought you had a fence that was pretty high.
That fence was high, but it was built to withstand 80 mile an hour winds, to the standards that the township had at the time. I agreed to take it down. I didn't fight the township, and I figured, you know what, the township has wasted enough money in litigation. Rudolph and Clark have made a fortune.
Did you take it down?
What's that?
Did you take it down?
The fence along John Pines Road?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't have a fence over there. It's all down.
I don't
There's nothing higher than 6 foot along that line. His fence, by the way, is 7 foot, because it's higher than mine, but I'm not complaining. Okay, he wants a higher fence, it's fine.
But was it the fence or was it the sheds?
Okay, well, I got to notice,
Started
again,
out on a fence.
the harassment part, sir, is about the fact that whenever they decide to create a violation, they throw a bunch of stuff at the wall, thinking whatever's going to stick is going to come back at them. Okay, so even though no shed's been built for 20 years, I got a notice of violation, I'm building sheds. Can you tell me where? I have pictures from Rudolph and Clark's settlement. that show all the sheds that are currently there in the exact positions that they are, yet now the township have had this information in their own attorney's files, whatever you want to call it, gives me a notice of violation for sheds that I've not moved and not replaced and not added. Explain that one to me. Why would they add sheds and fences and tarps, and they're just, anything they can think of every time somebody new comes in, I'm getting a notice of violation.
How many sheds do you have on your property? I hear you say plural.
Yeah, there's more than one. I haven't counted them.
You don't know how many sheds are in your backyard?
4.
4 sheds on your backyard?
Yes.
And the tarp, I'm assuming you hang to dry, right? I mean,
The tarp is hanging from a tree.
So why don't you just take it?
been there for 3
Why don't you
years.
fold it up, and if you
Because I have two. I don't have an area to put it in.
But if you have 4 sheds,
They're full. You want to come and see my sheds? I'll show you. I have a pool, so there's pool equipment, every shed is full to the top. You can come and look if
Do
you
you
want.
take that pool cover down to put it on your pool?
I
and
haven't
then
taken
put
it down,
back?
there's 2 of them. I haven't taken that cover down for 3 years.
So you're not utilizing the cover and it's still hanging there?
That's right. And again, there was no law against me hanging it there. All of a sudden, now the township wrote a law says you can't hang a tarp more than 2 feet or 6 feet high. After I hung it there, and now I'm in trouble for that, even though it's grandfathered.
We can ask for an explanation as to what's going on. Again, we're separate entities, administration, council. We make the laws, they follow the laws. We don't, they can't tell us what to do. We can't tell them what to do. We can ask and find out what's going on and seeing what the problem is.
Can you tell me why Bensalem needed a tarp ordinance?
Why do you want the tarp up there? What is the point of having that tarp up
If you don't use it.
Why, no, I do use it. There's two
You said you've
separate
been
tarps. I have
hanging up
2
there for
cup-
3
I have
years.
2 cup- I
Been
have
up there
2
for
cups.
3 years?
You said it's been
Why-
hanging there for 3 years.
Why do you
Right.
want?
So you're
why do you
not
want a
using
giant
that tarp.
Why do you want a giant tarp hanging above your fence?
It doesn't bother me. Why should it bother
But
me?
why would you put it there?
It's the only
It
place I have
bothers
to
the
hang.
neighborhood.
I have no room on my property to put a tarp anywhere.
This is the previous neighbor fought with you about this.
Is there a law against hanging it there? There is now. You wrote it afterwards.
I know, but why do you need it grandfathered in and have a giant tarp above your fence?
I don't remember us ever changing
You
that
didn't
law
change it
since
all
you
that.
lived there. We haven't changed
Then
it.
why did the mayor approve the tarp to be there in the first place 3 years ago?
I'll say it to you again. If you would like us to look into it for you, we can do that. We cannot tell the mayor what to do. He has to, the laws that are made, it's his group to take care of making sure the laws are followed. We can't tell the mayor what he can and can't do. He can't tell us what to do. Laws coming from us, we approve them. To have a tarp hanging in your house for 3 years that you don't use for anything,
I didn't say I didn't use it for anything. That's your word,
You just
sir.
said that.
No, I said I have 2 tarps.
Right,
I didn't
but-
say I'm not using it's a pool cover. I use it for my pool.
And I said you take it down
been there
every
for
year and
3
put it
years.
down. You said, no, it's been hanging there for 3 years.
There's 2 covers.
Is one of them hanging there past when the pool's covered?
Yes.
Okay, so then you have a pool cover hanging when it's not being used for anything. It's just there to hang.
I still use it though. It's just not
But-
while it's hanging.
But you don't, because it's hanging there for 3 years. You haven't used it for anything for 3 years. So how can you say you use it for something? What are you using the hanging cover for? If you don't mind answering the question I'm asking, you're asking me for help. I'm asking you for why you have a cover hanging for 3 years that you
2
don't
covers
use.
interchangeably cover the pool.
So you do use it for the pool?
That pool cover that's up there now has been there for 3 years. I've got another pool cover that's hanging, that I use on the pool.
Okay, so
That
you-
pool cover has now deteriorated to the point where it can't be used.
So the one that's hanging, you don't use?
I will not need that pool cover. I'm going to put it back on the pool because I can use that pool cover that's hanging to replace the one that went bad.
So then you're going to take it down and there's going to be no hanging pool cover, so...
No, going to be no hanging pool cover, that's
Okay,
correct.
so...
But that's not the issue. The township's abuse and harassment goes even further. Why are they revisiting my sheds? They've been approved.
Again, that is something you have to handle with the administration. It's not something that council can deal with because they are the administration, we are the council.
Sir, I understand
We make the laws, they follow the laws.
I understand that.
There's
But
been no
doesn't it-
laws for hanging tarps put in place for as long as I've been here, and that's been a while. So I'm not following on that, but like I said, I would be more than honored to ask what's going on and try and find out, but we can't tell the mayor what to do or not do.
I'm not asking
We
you to do
can't
that.
tell
I'm
Ken
just-
Farrell what to do or not do.
If the sheds are grandfathered in, the shouldn't be an
That's
issue.
right,
And
there
any
shouldn't be,
violations should not be sent in the
long as
first
he's got
place.
documentation.
It-
Right.
it-
And
If
if
the
you-
shed is not grandfathered in, then what you would probably need to do is go to the zoning hearing board and get a variance.
I've been through that process. Rudolph and Clark has the evidence in its agreements with me for all the sheds that are currently
Then
on the
take
property.
it-
I've added nothing.
So if you take a
Just throwing
copy, if
stuff.
you take a copy of that to the township building.
They
and get-
have it, Mr. Prince's office. It's Rudolph and Clark.
Rudolph and
That-
Clark is a law
that-
firm, it's not
right.
the township.
I know, but the township hired them. They have my files.
If you take the
He
document.
won't meet with me. Can we get a meeting with the mayor? I need a meeting.
Are you gonna listen to me,
Yes,
sir? Are you
sir.
gonna give me the opportunity to speak?
Go right ahead.
If you took the copy of the what happened with Rudolph Clark to Ken Farrell, dropped it at Building and Planning and say, here's the lawsuit that was had, that it was approved at this site, there's no question.
Okay, there shouldn't be any question at all. Why are they questioning my sheds when they already have?
Okay,
the-
so
You know what he told me?
here-
Wait,
here's
sir,
the
wait a minute,
deal.
one second. Just let me have 1 second.
Here's
So
the deal,
I went to
we
Ken.
can't,
Just 1
we
second.
can't help you.
For
We
1
can't
second.
help you.
Okay, 1 second.
We can't help you. Mr. Pizzo, can you help us with the answer on this, please?
I can help you with this, Mr. Polari.
Thank you.
As is true of every property in the township, including those located on Mark Circle. If the township receives a complaint or, a complaint from someone in the township complaining about the condition of a property, the township sends out inspectors to inspect the property. That's what we do. When the inspectors find what they believe to be a violation of a township code, be it a building code or a property maintenance code or the zoning ordinance, they notify the property owner of the violation. They don't take them to court, they give them the notice of violation. And the township inspectors are routinely available to speak with, meet with, explain exactly why it is they've done what they've done. And such is the case with this particular property. Now, my involvement has come in that Mr. Scardetto has complained to the mayor's office that he's being harassed. So the mayor has directed Mr. Farrell and me to contact Mr. Scardetto to discuss why he believes he's being harassed and to discuss the citations that have been filed against him. Mr. Farrell and I called Mr. Scardetto 2 weeks ago, give or take. No, it's about 2 weeks ago.
I returned those calls and I've sent you emails as well.
Left a message, called from Mr. Farrell's office. Mr. Scardetto was not at home. Mr. Farrell then went on his vacation. Upon his return, we reached out again. Again, Mr. Scardetto was not at home. Again, multiple messages were left on his answering machine that we were attempting to contact.
I called right back in 20 minutes. Nobody picked up the phone.
Again, and all of this is through the Building and Planning Department, not through me. I'm just helping to see if I can, because at this point, the matter hasn't been given to my office to assist. It's being done by Building and Planning the way it always is. But now that we have the specter of, well, there were the prior agreements that were made in court that involved my law firm X number of years ago, again, but I don't know what the particulars are of the current, so that's why I'm attempting to reach out to Mr. Scardetto with Mr. Farrell. I'll be happy to schedule a time tomorrow, assuming Mr. Farrell's schedule allows, to meet with him personally, to speak with him on the phone, whatever it might be. But to say that he's being ignored is certainly not the case. And to the extent that the mayor's office has directed our office and Mr. Farrell to attempt to get to the bottom of Mr. Farrell's complaints, we're happy to do so. In the meantime, again, as you've discussed, there's a giant tarp that's hanging between two neighboring properties that the township, I'm assuming that the inspectors are viewing as some sort of a spite fence. That having a tarp suspended 8, 10, 12 feet in the air between the two properties is not something that I believe our zoning allows for, or our building codes, or our property maintenance codes allow for. But again, this is part of what needs to be discussed. But again, at the end of the day, Mr. Scardetto isn't being treated any differently than any other property owner in the township. As you heard from Mr. Connolly earlier, there are some problems that either the township isn't creating or the township simply can't fix. Mr. Connolly's property line being one of them. He's hired 12 surveyors to come out and give him,
we're not talking about Mr. Connolly's property.
give him the same answer to a question that when all is said and done, it's neither a problem that the township created nor one that it can fix. As to Mr. Scardetto's property, again, the township has 60-plus thousand residents, 20,000-plus properties. We don't go out looking for problems. Believe me, the building and planning department gets plenty of complaints that the taxpayers expect the employees here to investigate and deal with. And that's what's happening here. So obviously, Mr. Scardetto has his view of what condition his property's in and how he's being treated. But at the end of the day, I assure you that the code inspector has gone out and written up violations based on what it is that he or she has observed. They haven't gone to court at this point because we're attempting to see if we can get them worked through or resolved without having to avail ourselves of the court system. But that's where things are.
Okay,
So they'll meet with you.
Can we get a meeting set up with you and Mr. Farrell and Mr. Pizzo to try and fix the situation?
I've been attempting to do that, so I'm not saying,
Sir,
you know, he put words in my mouth. He said I was
Can you answer my question?
Yes.
Okay,
But
so
he said
then-
I said I was being ignored. I didn't say that. I said I've been unable to get meetings with anybody. That's all.
You were just offered a
I'm-
meeting.
I'm
You're
more than
willing
willing
to
to sit
accept
with you and
that
find a
meeting.
meeting time.
So let's get to the meeting, let's get it done, and let's get this squared away. Again, we can't make the mayor do anything, the mayor can't make us do anything. We're trying to help you resolve your situation. Mr. Pizzo has offered to set up a meeting with you, he and Mr. Farrell. Let's move it on, let's try and get this solved and get it fixed. If there was a lawsuit that you guys came into agreement and it's the same thing here, then that'll all be resolve the problems. If that's what it is, I don't know, that's what you're telling me. But this is where you guys all have to get together, put your heads together, boom, get it done, and move on from there. This council can't do anything for you for what you're doing.
Sorry, I didn't want you to do anything from a legal perspective. You are doing exactly what I'm asking you to do.
Okay.
I'm trying to get this
If
matter
that
settled.
meeting doesn't happen and you're not satisfied, you can come back to us again and let us know that. That's what we're here for. If there's something that we can do within the law to help you, we will. That's our job to do that. You're going to get the meeting now with Mr. Pizzo and Mr. Farrell because you came here tonight. It's going to get done. And we'll see where it ends up from there. You know,
I shouldn't have had to come here.
I
to get a meeting.
understand that, but you are here and we're trying to take
Okay.
care of this for you. So, you know.
I just have a rebuttal comment to what Mr. Pizzo said. Just one more comment. Before, and I understand you can't do anything. I'm not requesting anything.
Okay.
But his comment that, that people aren't going out looking for things is absolutely not true. Kathleen Savage is the same inspector that has been at my property for the last 13 years. She knows exactly what's on that property, okay? And this is the same one that wrote up my sheds that said, I have new sheds there, when she knows exactly what sheds are there.
Okay, when you have your meeting,
We'll get this out.
You can bring that up to Mr. Farrell when you're there. He's the head of that department.
He is now.
He's responsible for that. So now you'll have a face-to-face with him and Mr. Pizzo and Mr. Farrell, and you guys can work it out and get it done there, and hopefully you can get it solved peaceably and get this done. Peace for you, peace for your neighbor, peace for the township. Everybody will walk away happy.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
I hate to belabor
Thank
this.
you.
Can I just ask you one quick question?
Yes,
I know
sir.
you're not going to want to hear this, but, you know, there must be some issue in terms of setback or height of the sheds or something where this has come up multiple times across a number of years. Is that correct? Why don't you, look, you have 4 sheds on the property. Why don't you then just get one shed that will accommodate the space that you need for the 4 sheds? You put the permit request into the township, you put it in there that's needed, and then you won't have any issues going forward. I know that's going to cost you some money, but it'll alleviate any problems going down the road.
I have no place to put the shed. That's
No,
all.
and, well, you take the 4 sheds out, right, and then you put
And then
another
I still
shed.
don't have enough room because the pool takes up most of the yard. So
Gotcha.
I've got no area for a large shed.
Okay.
That's my problem. If
Got
I'd
it.
had a large area for a shed, I wouldn't be standing here right
Okay,
now.
that's
But I
fine.
appreciate
I don't know that. Yeah, okay, I appreciate it.
And if you want, you can Google my property and you can see how little space I have.
Yeah, no, that's what I was asking. Yep, okay, thank you.
You're going to get your meeting set up, and if it's not resolved, you can come back to us again and let us know what's going on. At this point, we moved it to the point where you can now have a meeting and get it done.
Shall I wait for Mr. Pizzo after the meeting, or, because I don't want to interfere with the rest of the meeting you have going on now?
Or you're going to, if there's nobody else in the audience, you're going to be our last thing, so.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Alan, you're always welcome, you know that. Seeing no one else come forward, public comment is closed. Other business with board members. Mr. Pizzo, the mayor's not here. Was there any issues that he gave to you to bring forward, or?
No, other than, as I believe you're aware, Mr. Polari and the other members of council, the mayor did have a family matter this evening that required his attention and attendance, and so he passes along his regrets that he couldn't otherwise be in attendance and miss all the fun and festivities.
Yes.
That
Sorry, I should have said that in the beginning.
we've all been a
That's my
party
fault.
to.
I'll take the blame for that one.
But no, beyond that, nothing further.
Thank you, sir. Jesse, you have anything?
I want to welcome everyone back to school. I know all the kids are back in, so drivers, please be aware. Bus stops are out there. I know this was a topic tonight. But I do hope everyone has a great school year. Happy New Year to the Jewish community. I cannot believe that it has been 20 years since the terrorist attacks on our country. And it was just a pretty somber and reflective moment, really the entire weekend, to kind of think back on how far we've come and all the lives lost, not just in the attacks, but in the 20 years of war since then, culminating in this, final withdrawal from Afghanistan. So, all of my thoughts and prayers are to all of those that have lost their lives, all of those who have served our country over the past 20 years. Thank you very much for your service. We will never forget, and certainly not in this community.
Thank you for your service too, Jesse.
Thank you, Joe.
Mr. Talkmasian?
Just to reiterate some of the points that Councilman Sloan had said. Welcome back, all the students. It's pretty exciting to see everybody back. I know the masks were a contentious item, but it's good to see that they're back in the classroom and seeing the sports go on too as well. I mean, I was at my son's football game today. Happy New Year to the Jewish community as well. I do have 2 points of business. The first one, Mr. Pizzo, I just wanted to follow up. I know a couple weeks back, there was a gentleman that had came and we had spoken about the trash trucks that were picking up early in the morning. I wasn't sure if there was any progress to that request.
Yes, the administration is working on some possible amendments to the township solid waste collection ordinance. I imagine that they'll be ready to come before you, hopefully before the end of the year.
Okay, great news. Thank you. Second piece, just a new topic. Being that I'm on the Bucks County Planning Commission, I know Ed served too as well. And have we ever considered doing a full assessment of our township code to ensure our land development is meeting MPC standards, particularly when there's improvements to or additions to those MPCs with respect to changing building development needs? And the reason why I'm asking is there was a recent analysis done for Warrington Township, whereas the zoning ordinance update was done to fill a number of different objectives, such as assessing and different zoning districts, addressing nonconformities resulting from rezoning and curative amendments, addressing nonconforming lots and nonconforming uses, alleviate burdens on zoning hearing board, kind of cleaning up the code, providing a modern easy-to-use format, and there were a number of new definitions, regulations for new uses, proposed zoning map changes, and so forth. So I wasn't sure if we do any type of review of our own code in that.
We do as sort of, well, 2 things. One, as you'll recall at your August 23rd meeting, we adopted a fairly substantial number of amendments to the township zoning ordinance. Now that was the byproduct of the issue with the Department of Justice, but it did cause us to do a deep dive, if you will, into pretty much all aspects of the zoning ordinance while we were in the process of going back and forth with the Department of Justice over the course of roughly 2 years. So the zoning ordinance, I think, has been pretty well dealt with in that regard. things that are sort of housekeeping in nature, if you will, things that we see popping up from time to time that, during the course of these meetings or during the course of the review by the engineers and Ken Farrell's department, that we see are no longer applicable or that we now need to do something about. Convenience stores with fuel pumps being one of the more recent examples, that what was in the zoning ordinance or what was in the land development ordinance really hadn't caught up with the way the modern times are. So what the MPC requires in terms of how we process land developments really hasn't changed in any substantial way in terms of procedure, in terms of what we're looking to achieve as goals and the like. As council's aware, we're in the middle of a review of our comprehensive plan right now. That often will lead us to highlight these are things that need to be addressed or re-looked at. So it's more of an organic and ongoing process rather than one giant, hey, let's devote a significant amount of time going through it section by section. Those that work and continue to work. Those that are problematic, a lot of municipalities aren't of the same size and don't deal with the same volume of land development, of building applications in general that we do, and so they may not have the advantage of those things, again, that are recurring problems or recurring issues just through the normal day-to-day processing them here in the township. The professionals or the staff usually come to know, and we bring them to you when we think there's a change needed. One will likely be coming forward to you in the not too near future, having to do with steep slopes on properties and problem that we're seeing recurringly regarding natural slopes versus man-made slopes and how they're dealt with in terms of the zoning ordinance and by the engineers in the zoning department. So that would be a more recent example of, again, something that we see and are dealing with on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Knowles, wake up.
Sorry, that was very interesting. Now, I just want to also wish our Jewish community a Happy New Year. It's Happy New Year, right? Yeah, Happy New Year during the holiday. And also, it is unbelievable watching all weekend the 20 years since 9/11. But, some of the heartwarming stories of people who came together as Americans afterwards was, a silver lining in that. And I hope we can get back to some of that, that we're all Americans and we're all trying to do the right thing and work together for the best. But especially the first responders and the firemen and the police that rushed to the towers. And I was reading a transcript from Todd Beamer, who's famous for saying, "Let's roll," and they took down that plane in Pennsylvania knowing that they had no choice. But, and that's a demonstration of bravery that's unbelievable. But, so God bless the people that died in that, and the people that died in 9/11, and we'll work, as all Americans should work together for whatever's best for our community. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kisselbeck.
I have a microphone. Okay, thank you. I want to elaborate on the same issues that we were just discussing, which 20 years ago and 2 days, we certainly suffered a tragic, violent attack on America's soil, something that never had ever happened before, and that was from the Islamic terrorists. And as horrendous as it was and is, with 3,000 innocent people being killed, as Mr. Knowles had just said, there was somewhat of a silver lining in that it gave us an opportunity to view ourselves as to who we are. Gave us an opportunity to assess our policemen, our fire people, our first responders, our nurses, our doctors, and see what wonderful heroes they really are just on a daily basis. So it gave us an opportunity to reflect on who we are. And as we look at ourselves today, I remember 20 years ago when everyone was driving around their cars and you had seen American flags flying out of their car windows, and everyone was in love with America, I should say. And regardless of our race, our religion, our sexual preference, it didn't matter, because regardless of who we were at that time, we were all Americans. And I would hope that we can get back to that point, as you had just alluded to, and realize that this is the greatest country in the world. And yes, we do have problems, but our problems are minimal compared to many, many other nations in the world. And I would just say that I would hope that our parents would teach our children and make them understand and refresh their memory that on September 11th, this tragedy had happened, and we can all live together and be Americans and love our country. And I would say with that, may God bless America for everything we have to do in the future, and special loving affinity I give to everyone who serves in the military, because they're out there every day, and even if they don't think it or know it, it's not uncommon for all of a sudden you realize you've lost 13 or 14 people just doing a very mundane, everyday type of a job. So God bless America. God bless all those who love America, and I hope that's 100% of all of us. That's what I had to say, Joe.
Thank you, Ed. And Ed, I want to say thank you to your son who's serving now to protect this country.
Thank you.
It's very much appreciated for all those that are serving. I made some comments in the beginning, but what I want to follow up with is that I am proud of our police force, our fire department, our rescue squad here, the work that they do, the time they put in, the effort they put in. When there's a fire in your house, they're coming in to rescue or go save your property. You're running out, they're running in. Police officers, there's issues, somebody's trapped in your house, they're going. They're not asking, what should I do? They're going to rescue your family member, your pet, whatever it might be. You know, being a volunteer fireman myself for 15 years in my younger days, you don't think about it. You care about your community. You do what you got to do for your community to protect the people in your community. I am so proud of the people that we have here in our community that do what they do every day to protect the people of this community. And I hope that when someone sees a veteran or sees somebody serving, they say thank you. Thank you to our police officers. Thank you to our firemen, who are volunteers, by the way, they don't get paid. And to our rescue squad, who's always finding ways to take care of our people. Say thank you. It means a lot. These people are working hard to make sure that we're all safe and we all have the things we need. Keep in your prayers all our service members all over the world that are fighting and are protecting our country from the bad people that are out there. And prayers work for more than people can imagine. At that, put a motion on the floor to adjourn.
So move.
We're adjourned.